Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to
Wow.
the North American Ing Cup qualifier. Michael Chen versus Alec Chi, the third day of games.
Another exciting one lined up for us. We already have one guaranteed participant in Ryan Lee. And I believe this is the playoff, so to speak, to determine who will be sent as a second representative between Michael Zichen and Alex G.
Happy birthday, Ryan!
Happy birthday, Ryan.
Yeah,
Congrats again on qualifying. I'm happy that you have a day off, so to speak.
I am just going to make another announcement right there. Boom. All right, so I guess we should take a look at this opening, right?
Yeah.
So Zichen Mike also streams. I think many viewers already know him, but yeah, you guys should follow that. Alex Chi, he actually streams sometimes, right? But I don't know if he
Oh, does
streams
he?
lately.
Okay. I was unaware. I should definitely
Yeah,
try
I
to look for
watched a
those.
few of his streams, but I don't know if he kept up with it.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, we
so
always see Zichen memeing around on Fox 9 Dawn level, right? Just figuring out
yeah,
uh, different
his streams
principles
are
to
very
apply.
chill.
Yeah, they're very nice.
So, in my opinion, I think the left side is like pretty normal. Like white is playing very chill with this diagonal. Black
Yeah,
makes a really big formation that they can't really complain about since it is there's a lot of invasion points, right? But it's also white's side. So
right.
yeah, there's
It's very
invasion
much like
points.
a call, well, like a questioning kind of like I wonder how white will handle this if white wants to do anything immediately or just play more towards the open sides. And I think, especially at the upper levels, people don't generally try to expose any kind of weaknesses in the jumps. So it makes sense that white tanukis.
Yeah, it's interesting that like this is normal, but of course like pretty chill, right? And then
Right.
white didn't even pincer, which yeah, you don't have to, but a lot of people like to pincer when black
Like
tries to,
psychologically, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
trying to get two approaches. So white let black build the house and then white tanukis. So pretty normal, but that's very definitely very almost refreshingly chill by white. Uh right,
Yeah,
then we
I
have so
I wish I could be so chill in
so
heart, but I
chill.
guess that's what it means to be a strong player, right? Like you have these, you're pretty adaptive in your ways of play.
Yeah, it's all fair game, it's all even. So immediately we're getting into this like pretty complicated thing, right? Because white chose the sacrificey variation.
Right.
So like it's possible for white to connect. Maybe black plays one of these.
Hmm.
Yeah, and then black has a lot of space, right? So black's going to be able to like if black plays here, black obviously has Miai between, let's say, something like A or following up somewhere on these two stones, right?
Right. It's very much seemingly like the exchange for S13 for S14 is just that. It's just like a simple exchange, and then you can kind of focus on more if you want to pressure the two stones at the bottom side or continue and try to pressure the grip at the top.
Yeah, so black has to put a decent or white has to put a decent amount of effort in to actually turn around and capture that stone.
Right.
So I think white didn't like the fact that black's extension is also going to be pincer too.
Right.
So this kind of makes sense. And I can quickly show what I know about this. I might even get an order wrong somewhere, but black would
Okay.
usually push, and then this
One
may be the
space.
moment even where white cuts here, or
Okay.
uh,
I think it might be one space, but I'm not sure. Just
yeah, maybe
acknowledging
after the
timing.
one space, right? Like right now.
Yeah, something like this. In chat, full disclosure, we might be getting the order wrong, but the principle is the same.
Yeah, then white goes up again, and then
Right.
white always has the sente here.
Right.
Um, and like if
So,
black follows, yeah. Sometimes it gets exchanged even early, I think. I've seen it. But the idea is white's basically going to get thick here, and black's going to have a chance to cut there and capture these.
right.
But being thick here, it's going to really help these stones, and the distance here is probably going to be decently efficient, I think.
Right. No, it's definitely very much a sacrifice and gate kind of like outside thickness. It very much plays to giving away the four stones, is by definition what happens when white plays R12. So if you all ever say like that peep at S13, you're like, you know what? I saw a variation where I don't have to connect and I can jump to play R12. Whether or not both you and your opponent follow the Joseki, just know that the spirit of that jump is inherently saying that you are or should be okay with giving up the 4 stones.
Right. Yeah. And right. So if black plays here, white can just play like
Right.
this because yeah, black
If black wishes
Atariing would
to,
just Atari himself.
right.
Um, and what I see a lot also these days when this comes up is you get a lot of black actually not even cutting yet and just leaving it. Now, I don't know
Okay.
about this position because these stones are a little close, so it's like trickier for black to do things in here. But often, like black waits because there's a chance that besides wanting Sente, maybe black also, even if white comes back and like patches this up in some
Right.
way, there's like things like this. So this
Yeah.
is threatening to
There's
cut under.
yeah, it seems like there's no kind of shortage of Aji, or at least questions
Yeah,
that you can ask
exactly.
your opponent in these kinds of scenarios.
So real game, it's very complicated. I think even I remember when I was learning it a bit. Even like mid dans or so, like maybe even some high dans, evidently, right? Well, no, I think I would still count as mid dan. I don't even know. But anyway, like
Depends on
don't
the
know
day for myself,
completely and are
but
scared by it.
sure. Yeah. I don't necessarily like. So inherently, whenever this Joseki happens in the top right, I generally don't push Q14, and it's not necessarily because I'm afraid to. It's just because I'm so accustomed to not wanting to go into having to be adept or confident. Because like you said, it's not like, so even if I know the Joseki locally, it doesn't mean that my opponent's going to play it out to completion. It doesn't mean I know exactly how to handle all the Aji that could happen, or all the questions that my opponent could ask me from that Joseki later. And for that reason, I tend to try to simplify it a bit.
Yeah. And so do you play this one?
I generally do. Um, yeah, I would generally play like this one, especially with the stones on the bottom side. For me, I feel like if I can strengthen one group, then I don't have to worry necessarily about how to handle both of them in that kind of large expanse.
Yeah. Yeah. This one, it makes a very thick, solid shape. Like black cannot really get any good pushing, nor is there much of anything. Like usually this A is not going to work in most cases, even with a stone there.
Right.
Um, it would, of course, work with some black here, but I mean, anything works with some black here.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And even if that A was working, it would be no different from if I'd played the push Joseki and my opponent peeped at A, like, at the, because I already have that jumping stone there. But yeah, basically, the most important thing is if my opponent plays something like R10 in that previous variation, then I don't have to necessarily worry about one of my groups, and I can play comfortably from another one.
Yeah. Like even,
For
pin.
example, if I want to
Yeah.
play a very, very calm, like, like Honte kind of game, like a very reasonable game.
I saw it when I was doing my own AI reviews over the last 2 years. I saw AI recommend this one plenty, so it's not bad.
Yeah,
It's just more
and
popular
certainly,
push here.
yeah, and like I will admit that I see that in the majority of pro games that I do follow or look for, I think that a lot of them, I don't think I've seen a pro that actually plays like the R12 kind of jump. I think they all push at Q14. Of course, Joseki matters on the context of the board, but just like in the
Yeah.
opening. So
And yeah, so black didn't finish, right? Just like
yeah,
so black
like you
didn't
said.
finish. So white goes for this knight's move. Normally you might think black would play something like this, right?
Yeah.
But black is going aggressive, it looks like.
So I will point out that, so like you said, something like a knight's move at the top is very reasonable to play from the side. Like if you're just focusing on the top area, it totally makes sense. Like white got a capping move on the fifth line, you get a nice move on the third line, you get strength, stability based territory. So like locally, I would say that capping exchange versus black's knight's move at the top in response is probably locally better for black, but that's completely disregarding the black side shape on the left. And because like we know that there's always like a possible invasion for white on the left side, seeing black respond with this Kema, which also happens to be the shape point to kind of look at white's Kema, the capping Kema, makes more sense. Although I admit I'm not very, beyond that, I can't really comment much about this move. I don't think I've seen it very often.
Yeah, it strikes me as a bit novel. But it is certainly the shape. And of
Right.
course, yeah, it's looking to cut through, it's threatening to cut through here. And yeah, like you said, it's helping this area. So I guess it really comes down to like how much sort of damage can white do with a move like this or maybe a move like this. Um,
Sorry, what are the moves? Oh, sorry. Did you
oh
pass
yeah,
me?
yeah. So I gave you control, but I guess
Okay, let me
do you
give.
want to just cruise for now?
You mean like going forward? Yeah,
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 you
for
have
sure.
control now, so I'll let
Okay.
you.
Yeah, so white has kicked in the corner, and that basically solidifies white's group on the top side. Because without that exchange, it's possible that black can slide into the corner and take away white's eye shape, for example. And it's a good way of solid like the territory. Um, and black expands at the top with a one space jump, like a low one space jump. Um, what do you think about this move? Just impressions wise, if you have any.
Yeah, black is trying to minimize forcing moves that white would have against like the formation black's making here, so that black can put the spotlight on white's weakness more,
I
and
see.
by reducing white's forcing moves, white can stay weaker. So he's trying to make white care more about the cut ability, I suppose.
Okay. So as opposed to playing something like a Kama, which might have like an attached follow up or some kind of forcing moves
Right,
that.
various options, yeah.
So with this move, you're saying that there's fewer forcing moves that white can make to strengthen their shape between these
Yeah,
marks.
I'll show something really quick
Yeah,
here.
please.
Like this might not be necessarily part of the plan, but like white wouldn't want to do this willy-nilly because it solidifies the top entire area.
Right.
But let's say this kind of cutting happened, then suppose black played like this, then of course white's cut is fixed in sente.
Right.
Even if black went here, white could go down,
Right. That doesn't seem
and
very.
there would still be a liberty fight that fixes the cut. So, but I don't think white would ever do this just kind of casually because it gives away a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes
But
sense.
that kind of option, right? Like if it's like this, white never has such a fixed incente type option. So it's like future minded.
Yeah, it definitely it shows like a kind of um like a quiet like question or a quiet promise basically saying that
It's
white
like
is always
ominous.
looking. Yeah, exactly. Black is absolutely eyeing the shape weakness. And now of course it's not saying if white tanukis black's going to immediately go for the cut. It's just more of like we said, like in the future, like there's fewer exchanges that white can make. So if it ever becomes a valid cut to make, black has all
Yeah.
the arsenal to make it basically.
It's very much an experience move, I think, because it's very,
Yeah.
yeah, its value shows itself much later, I would say.
Yeah, and I think that's just to comment that a little bit more. I think it's funny at different stages of one's Go development, right? We have different instincts, and like very much, I believe like a Q player would make this move in terms of like territory or something like that, right? Whereas my instinct would be to play like this because I see that I have a strong shape on the right side, and I
Right.
kind of want to kind of build towards that future in the center maybe. So it's my instinct to come up to the fourth line. But then again, we see at this level, it's very much a balance of looking like, hey, I don't really care about territory necessarily building from that side. I'm just looking for the relational strength of my group versus your group and eyeing that cut in the future. And I think that's, like you said, a very disciplined, experienced move, maybe that I would.
Yeah, because it's almost surprising in a way. So it makes you think, right? Um, and it's almost an aggressive move, I might say, right? I mean, we already kind of said this, but like normally you would think the greedier looking, bigger kind of move is more aggressive move, right? But here I think it's kind of the opposite.
Yeah, and it's always hard to kind of figure out that balance, right, between a seemingly slow move and a seemingly, powerful move, like establishing a good base before you go for it. Speaking of establishing a good base, I've seen this move before, I admit, but I am not well versed. I can imagine that black wants to, and forgive this crude variation, but just at a simple, like logical level, if black gets these exchanges, but I can't imagine that's the true
Yeah,
aim.
that is well, that definitely is Black's hope.
Okay.
Yeah, and if white resists like that, I think black usually just connects because there's a lot of aji in the corner
Okay.
now.
So that I would say the well, I said this is probably not the true aim. I admit I can't imagine a way that black would make use of this exchange without playing this move.
Yeah,
Of
yeah, the
course,
Hane
the
has to be
threat being
next. Yeah,
like, of course, the threat being like something like white does not allow this to happen, of course,
yeah,
just to show a pretty simple variation. Um, and so I put this move because I didn't, in a quick variation, I didn't want to kind of, I didn't know if this would leave Aji or whatnot. But so I just
yeah. I
put a
think it's
simple one
correct.
here. But
I think it's correct.
but I like because this. So when it's similar to the conversation and the kind of explanation that Ben especially gave at the top side is like when you play like this kind of move and you for whether it's right or wrong, I'm just saying like it strengthens your opponent as much as like in addition to you strengthening yourself, right? So my variation was instinctually based on I don't want to give my opponent strength. Like maybe there's a shape like I can't imagine black tanuking, but like maybe this shape is easier to attack than if we consider, for example, after this exchange.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that white's not going to try to attack this group, but yeah. So you correctly called out that the connection is normal here. I admit I don't really have a lot of experience with these exchanges, but
Yeah, I'll show a touch more.
yeah, please.
So this move is like trying to. It's not always exactly bad, but it's just risky. Like, it's trying to get sente. Because
Okay.
of course this is gote for white, right?
Right.
But this one you just have to watch out. Like even when white gets this hane, like black should not Atari here, for example. This is a common thing you would see even in like a strong Q or a lower down game sometimes.
Okay.
But
Because we're trying to
because they're
preserve
not
like a
thinking enough.
D3 or C3 OG, is that the idea?
Yeah, they're not thinking enough about how this can actually come into play later.
Okay.
So let's say black just responds, and let's say white eventually. Well, white would never do it now, but let's say white did this.
Yeah. Okay.
And then blah blah blah. Well, yeah, there's some serious issues here. Like Atari here first, maybe this, and then push, and already white's like pretty much dead. I mean, technically this would probably become a ko, I think. There's various ways to make this ko, actually. There could be ko from here. There could be, which would be like this or like this.
Okay.
And there could also be ko simply from this, I think, which would be like here, and then, right. So if white goes down,
Right.
black can do something like throw in, like this.
Yes. Yeah. And that would
So
be
it's not exactly one eye versus no eye. Like even if white does this,
right.
yeah, it's gonna be ko basically. So
Anyway, I
anyway,
guess my question is like
Mhm.
you mentioned, right? We don't expect white to play that kind of endgame hane, and also I can't imagine a world in which the Aji around D3 is not settled before endgame one way or another. Is that an accurate?
Right. Yeah. So you're thinking, okay, well, as long as white doesn't do unnecessary
Right. Or if
yeah.
like, because I can't imagine that, E5 is completely ignored for that so long, so far, like that endgame honey for white would actually become applicable, or that black won't get a stone around H3 and threaten like a D3 kind of looking move.
To be honest, even here though, it's I mean, at least before I start reading it, it looks already a bit iffy.
For black to play it immediately, so it looks iffy for white, you're saying?
Like let's say let's simplify by saying black is white invaded and then black ended up like this or something, right?
Okay.
Or like this. Yeah,
Sure.
then I mean, I'd have to dig into this because I don't just know.
Right. Is this a move, or is this a time where C1 becomes applicable? That I'm pulling that completely just out of my head, chat. I don't know.
It's a good idea. Let's see. So next is presumably here, right?
Yeah, I'm D1, I guess, right? For shape wise.
Yeah, because if here, then white Ataris and I mean, technically, even this would be technically ko because white's never gonna safely approach from the left side. So technically, white could black could try to win the ko multiple times to eventually kill white here.
So like, is there a way that we can accept? So after black moves at 12, if we play like A5 or something, is there a Seki opportunity? Just out of curiosity, like, is there a peaceful way of doing this locally without forcing a ko?
That is another good idea. Yeah. Let's see. So if black hanes, black lives and then white lives. Yeah.
But I guess it's a little bit more painful for white because white never really got to expose E5 Atari like that. Because if white can capture the cutting stone, Seki never has to be on the table.
So the Agi is like fairly serious. And a more minor thing is the fact that any kind of pushing here,
right,
if it ever became good, right, it does threaten this kind of thing.
Right.
So there can be scenarios where push or, black gets something around here, and then this push just becomes really awesome. So making white go there. There's just a lot of like interesting Aji in the corner there.
Yeah, it's incredible. I've never played. I'm pretty sure my memory is pretty bad, especially short term. But I don't think, at least in the last year or two, that I've ever played a move like E4. I think I've probably played it in like handicap games, maybe. But
Well, also white can resist, so it's a bit
right.
involved.
I think I've seen something like this, but I don't know if B4 was there. So
Right. Yeah.
certainly don't know the variations.
And we can see that our question is like, how serious is the Aji? The question is kind of answered because white spent the move here.
Right. Okay.
This is obviously an indirect defense of this cut.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's a much more efficient way to do so, right? But it's very, very slow normally, this move, right?
And it's like definitely, yeah. So yes, it's a very thick kind of slow move, but it's also like, so yes, it's showing the importance of who gets to play there first, but it's also an interesting choice of which forcing move that white played, right? Because we also have a myriad of other moves, like G5 would be the similar, like it would be Sente.
That's right.
So
that's true. Yeah.
Definitely, I'm not by any means commenting on which one's better. It's just interesting to see that like white chose that one, and I hope maybe we'll see why that specific one.
That's a good point actually, because it does seem more efficient. It could be that I don't know. Maybe black could set up something that like white needs to find the right time to do this versus killing the corner. I'm not sure. Yeah. I mean, it looks like your move is just better, basically. That's why I'm not sure.
But maybe because my move would, if black connects, it would basically say that white needs to add another stone on the side eventually, or something like that. Maybe white.
Yeah, but that exchange looks pretty good for you, I think.
Perhaps.
Yeah, like even if white did just connect now.
My greedy self was thinking like H3. I'm like, how efficiently can we not connect these stones?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Like Arendelle said in the chat. Like I just.
And this is also giving us more answers, right? Like black actually connect. So this is the kind of connect that normally, you would sort of call out like a 10Q or something for connecting that.
It definitely feels like it's shortening one's liberties, and so that's kind of another move from black, right? That's very much saying like, this is the threat. Like, please pay attention, like for better or for worse, like if it's correct or if it's not, but just know that this is my intent behind this connection, is saying like, hey.
The higher level you go in, like, I guess like go ranks, the more that this kind of move is very conspicuous.
Yeah, it's like a red flag almost. Like like we're gonna read it out and we're gonna see who is like correct in this assumption or this assessment.
And white actually opted to Tanuki, so
okay.
Is it squeeze? Yeah. Okay.
Is it a ladder? Is it a squeeze? I don't know. It's just, I mean, the Tanuki in itself is big, right? Because we're not giving away the 4 stones anymore. But
it definitely makes a lot of sense not to connect this, because that's just
B2 bombers are B2 bombers, but they would die in the situation.
The two ideas are here or here. So this one though, you need to be sure, right? Because what if white just extends?
Right. And this one, if white extends, it looks like,
or black. Yeah, black extends. I said white, but I meant black. Yeah. So
yeah.
Now white can just win the liberty fight confidently.
Okay.
Because this time white gets this I-shaped kind of thing, right?
Right.
So it's clever. Black can wait now, right? Because this one could become a useful Sente for things happening on the outside in the future.
Right.
And anytime black wants, black can just take the points thing like this, right?
But if white had this move, I'm gonna again like question E5 then. If white can settle it so calmly. If
that's a very good point. That's a very good point. Maybe E5 is a little bit too slow.
Perhaps.
Or so we think, right?
Or so we, no, absolutely. Please note disclaimer in chat. And I also really love that chat's participation. Like, we're both streaming on YouTube and Twitch, and just know that we, Ben and myself, are looking at the comments and Twitch chat rather. So if there are ever any comments or call outs or variations or questions, we're super attentive and would love to have that interaction.
I think for the question, would pros let things settle so easily too? I think letting something settle or not settle, it depends on the exact variations that they see. Like, if it's good enough for them, then okay, don't mind, right?
Right. Certainly I've played enough games against professionals, teaching games, all of them, that they would happily let me spend like 3 moves to settle. Well, 3 is a lot, but like 2 moves to settle a group, and maybe I even make some territory. But for those 2 moves, the timing of them, they get to make, influence or points elsewhere, and it felt bad. Even if I didn't die, it felt bad. So
Now, obviously, there's a lot potentially wrong we're saying too, because White actually went back right away to capture this, which did surprise me a little. Am I misreading something or undervaluing something?
yeah, certainly, especially in a game that's one. There's a lot riding on it, right? The winner of this game goes to proceed to play in the Ing Cup in China, right? And for Alex, this would coincidentally be his third possibility. So he's already going once. I got the lowdown here. He already got secured 1 trip to China from the Chinlun Cup. Please forgive my pronunciation. And I think he's competing on Tuesday for a second possible trip from the Show Cup. And so this would theoretically be a third possibility of going to China for this Ing Cup. So there's a lot riding on this game, certainly. And it kind of means that we look at each of these moves, especially in the opening, with a little bit more scrutiny.
Oh, White did not. I think that wasn't the game somehow.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't. It wasn't me either, though.
No, it might have been misrecorded.
Okay, that makes more
But that
sense.
doesn't
I thought that's
yeah. I don't. Sorry, I said that. I don't know if that makes sense either because they're playing online, right? So I don't. Anyway, the idea is that wasn't the game, but for whatever reason, yeah. Like there's no misrecording. It's natively played online, but
Black is going for this caching. I mean, it's fine for us to have opinions when we're weaker than them, right? So whatever,
right. We have nothing to lose, right?
I would not want to cash out on this so soon because it's just a little bit of endgame.
Mm.
I mean, because when I saw White capturing here, which wasn't the game, I was thinking I was gonna ask everyone. I was gonna say, "Oh, who do you guys prefer?" Right? Because I prefer Black at this point.
Do we think it's a reason to not like to cash out to extend the liberties of that group? Like if it's something to do with like C7 at all? Is that a reason possibility? I don't know. It could be.
Well, but even when Black does this, Black also loses this liberty.
Let me think too. If Black connects, right?
Well, if Black, I mean, I guess the capture. No, I don't think it's an asking move, right? I think White's always going to double Atari here.
No, I absolutely, yeah. I absolutely believe that. So I don't know if it's correct or not to capture. I'm only trying to figure out a reason why. I absolutely believe White would have to double Atari there. It's just a question of does Black continue by connecting D4 for B2, for example. But I can't imagine. I don't know. I'm just trying to ascribe a reason to something.
Yeah, so I'm just a bit surprised that Black is doing this now when there could have been Aji of D2.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, because I was happy to see White just playing so slow here as Black. Interesting. Yeah, so this is the game.
Okay. So Black is saying we got to come out with S11.
Black is using those almost dead stones to connect out and make his R7 more alive, maybe.
Right. Actually, let me see. I was concerned with the grading in the bottom left. When did White get that timing? When was R7 for B4 exchanged? Okay, immediately.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you control actually for a bit.
Okay.
Take a break.
What exactly I will do with it, I'm not sure, but let's find out together. Okay, so if we, so R7 is, so certainly Black would have played R7 with the intent to play S11. Like that is certainly like a connected thought in his mind. So this exchange and then the capture. Yeah, the timing of the capture is certainly a question to be asked. And if anyone in chat has any ideas, please, by all means, we'd love to hear it. It can't be a time Suji because it's a Byoyomi game. It's not Fisher time, and I can't imagine they're low on time.
It's about 5 points difference of territory.
Okay.
White capturing versus Black making White finish on B2.
White capturing before making White finish on
like if Black connects the Ko now and makes White just fix.
Okay, like this and like this?
Yeah, then the total difference seems to be around 5 points.
Okay.
So is it just about the 5 points? Maybe. Could be, I guess.
But in the opening? Like...
Yeah. No, because if White took away by capturing before, like, White would never... Yeah, no, I don't think it's about the 5 points.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it would be above 5, especially because like, so this is something that I think most strong players, if not all of them, know intrinsically or not. But I've stressed this before, especially when like, commenting on games. Granted, like generally people like maybe a little bit weaker than me, and not people that are immensely stronger than me. But in general, the opening is for figuring out what kind of groups we're going to take into the middle game, and not so much about points. Of course, AI like there's always like optimizations to be made, but assuming you're not losing like 10 points or your group isn't dying, it's generally about like groups versus points, right? Points come into like end game. And so I very much, and the call out of 5 points is great, but I can't imagine a world in which 5 points is the reason that someone plays a move over like strength.
It can be the reason if it's like Sente 5 points.
Okay, sure,
Yeah, because
agreed.
it's like,
It's Sente 5 points, yeah, absolutely.
yeah, then it could be too painful to just randomly become 5 points behind.
So someone said that S11 looks desperate. Desperate. It's certainly.
It's not necessarily desperate because it's crawling on the second line,
Right.
but I
I
mean,
can imagine.
I don't know if that comment has anything to do with the AI score being shown.
Oh, actually, I don't know what the AI score is being shown.
I
So
see
I
it
have
when I look
disabled
on
it.
Twitch right
Okay.
now. I will say
But
though that 80%, right, is actually a pretty small lead, I think, human wise.
right. So I'll give it from, so my perspective is always to give it from a points value, because I'm not good enough to, or it's maybe just not my
Yeah, I
preference
do
to go
that
by.
too. I prefer that.
So
Yeah.
I think, so at this moment, after white, before black plays S11, white is ahead about 6 points according to whatever the low like AI counting is on OGS. I say low, it's still pretty good. Um, and so,
Hmm.
and at this level of play, it's significant. 6 points, as if you can imagine, is like when Ryan played against Chen Michael yesterday. Their game for the majority of it was within 6 points, and I believe the final score was Michael lost by 5.5 points. So it's not like a small amount, certainly.
Yeah,
So desperate,
it's possible.
it might be desperate at their level, certainly, but it wouldn't be classed as like desperate maybe at my level, for example. And I
To be
realized,
fair, I thought 80% was a smaller lead than that. I wonder if there's a difference in OGS versus.
yeah. So OGS is showing 94%, to be fair, for that
Oh, okay, yeah,
6.9.
because it's different when I see it on the stream.
Percentage for stream is special is what we're getting, which is fair and valid. Because to be honest, like my personal take on AI, and this is maybe a hot take, but I'm pretty sure there are like various factions, right? There's one end of the extreme that is Ryan Lee's take on AI, and then there's like, thank you for taking control, by the way. Then there's like my take, which is very much like it doesn't matter as much, even if you have a 99% win rate, as long as it's enough for a human, like as long as the position is complicated enough for a human to mess it up, right? Like 99% could be like, oh, because you're 100% going to win this fight in a Liberty race. But if it's Bioyomi versus like two players, even if they're strong, you can easily lose the Liberty race, and the swing will be like 40 points, and then suddenly you're at 0% win rate. So like I always take everything with a little bit of a grain of salt, and wonder about the context of it all.
Yeah.
Certainly. But
Yeah, like when I was posing that question earlier of who we preferred, like I could have looked and seen that it was like, oh yeah, white's like 25% better, but I think it's good to like make our own judgment, and if anything, you compare it to AI judgment after you make that judgment, right? That's more useful.
certainly.
And also the way that humans carry out the board position is going to be different, right? So
Right.
something that like when
Complexity that AI
thinks
can
it's
handle
like,
can't.
yeah,
Right.
AI thinks it's like 65%, let's say for someone, and we think it's like the flip.
Right.
The way the game plays out could very well be the flip, right? So
Exactly. Yeah. It's very much AI is assuming perfect play for both sides, and we are far from that.
because it can be the difference of an entire invasion or something that
Right.
humans deem impossible or something like
I was
that.
like, oh yeah, we'll give you this group that's worth like 40 points, but hey, I'm gonna get Sente and also pressure this group that's gonna have to run and give me 50 points. But like nobody knows that. So okay, so it looks like we have some more exchanges in the game itself. And White was able to push through at P3. Is that what you are seeing as well?
Yeah, so this is definitely hopefully black is like well calculated on this, because this is yeah. So I think a lot of this is about like, can white go there, right? And this exchange has to have something to do with this situation, obviously. So that's a clue. Once we see white inviting black to go here,
Hmm.
it's definitely something to do with what happens when black pushes through here.
Right. Not that we can
So
ever imagine white black would actually come out like that, but that's this kind of reading, this kind of variations to show what kind of forcing moves or what kind of odd we want to cover if we do imagine our opponents playing there, if that
yeah, the
makes sense.
timing makes sense. So I think what it is, right, is if white did this, like imagine if white had access to this move,
Right.
and then which they wouldn't do it yet, but they would do this now,
Right.
and then after this, white can actually extend again, and then
Because
Atari, and
when they
then
covered, they'll have that tiger's mouth shape and
yeah,
then more liberties on the 3 stones than the other
so only one
6 stones
cut
for
now,
black. Right.
and also yeah, black has like no liberties.
But I guess the question is that cut so like I understand again we're trying to ascribe value and trying to see what they're reading, but is it important to cut the or to protect the P5 cutting point? Like
That's a good question. Yeah, like
what happens if we don't? Like what happens if we just don't protect
just
it?
like
We're
this,
like,
right?
yeah, this is fine. Yeah, because the white group at the top side, right? The top side of the white group has enough liberties. And this isn't, of course, my questions are as much for chat as they are for Benkyo, as they are for AI, as they are for the world, because I don't know what's happening, and I would very much like to
I
understand.
also don't quite know what's happening actually. I thought
But
when I was only like half thinking about it, I thought I understood, and then it's like, yeah, good point. Why can't white just kill like
just
this?
force it.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I don't know.
We don't know. So chat, please, if you have anything, please entertain us, as in like enlighten
Yeah,
us as
white can
much
just
as
extend exactly.
right.
So I mean, that's the clue. That's all it was, is a clue of
Right,
what.
exactly. We have to kind of so it's actually really interesting about Go, right? Is like especially as you get stronger, the exchanges that are made or elected to be made, they very much tell the story, right? Because you wouldn't. So in general, the principle is we don't make exchanges that are stuff that we can exchange later, right? We don't want to force an observation about something that we don't know if the result will be useful to us, for example. And so the fact that O15 was played, it was an exchange that was made. It cut off a possibility for white to play like I don't know P14 entire, which I don't imagine that ever happening, but I'm just saying. Then we have to figure out why that exchange was made, because these people at a stronger level would know not to make exchanges, and so we're like Ben said, we're trying to reverse engineer kind of to figure out the narrative.
Yeah, maybe all I'm thinking now is maybe he thought that it's never bad when black plays here for white. Maybe that's what he thought. So the timing might actually just be arbitrary, but also like without necessarily a consequence. Like, mm, I don't. Yeah, it might be just that he never minds when black does this
Mm.
because uh because he's gonna squeeze like this or like this or something,
Mm.
or or even connect and then squeeze.
Mm. Maybe,
Maybe.
maybe. I don't. Yeah, like about Go, right? I don't know. I wish we could. This is like a moment where I feel like if you've ever watched any reality TV shows, whether about cooking or whatever it is, and they just like something happens in the show, maybe like Gordon Ramsay's cooking show, right? And something happens on screen with the contestants, and then you get to, they're kicked off the show, and then you get an interview with them later. I wish we could cut to the interview where we interview the players and be like, "So, what were you thinking at this particular moment? Like, what
Yeah,
was
this
your
move might be effing raw, right?
right?" Like, it's just that one in like E5. I'm just like, these are questions that I have for you, and I wish we didn't have to wait for the game to end that I can ask them. Um, and just it's a little bit delayed now, but to answer or to comment on something that Moko Hazushi said in chat, R9 is a pretty move. I think R9. I think R9 is also a pretty move. It gives Sabaki, right? It just gives Sabaki because it's an attachment move. It's very much like a ask your opponent questions and then be fluid and figure out what your opponent says. And of course, that's a great way to come back from when you're behind. Is you just make your opponent make decisions, and then you hope and you kind of try to manipulate them to making bad decisions, and then you kind of get your incremental wins from there. But it can also backfire, of course, and where your opponent can make very good decisions, and then your questions may look like dumb questions, like what I ask of Benkyo sometimes. But the idea behind R9 is very much Sabaki and very much kind of that beautiful like flow like water vibe. I agree. I think it's pretty too.
So if we try to analyze the actual like state, like, and
Sure. Yeah.
to be honest, for me, I'm gonna pretty much ignore the AI percentage thing, but it is a
Yeah.
very cool feature to have on stream, and maybe it's like, yeah, like it's very good for the viewers.
Agreed. Yeah.
But
I also
for
have
me,
it disabled by
personally,
default.
if I look at the AI, it's going to affect my thinking. So
Yeah, agreed. I have it disabled by default. But if I ever need to count the board, you bet I'm gonna look at that real quick.
so yeah, who do we prefer? So like
Mm,
this stuff happened. Black went in for
who do we
this
prefer?
thing, and it's turning into what looks like a shallow kind of reduction type of thing, right?
Yeah,
Well, not shallow, but you know what I mean.
yeah. I would say like preference wise. I started that sentence before I actually had an answer. Sorry, one moment.
Well,
I think I prefer white insofar as
I'm starting to like white. Yeah.
my reason for that is because white has cash, white has territory, and black has like these maybe somewhat black has made a lot of promises, right? So between like e5 and j17 and such like that, we are saying that black is saying like white better be mindful of their shapes and connections and everything, but at the end of the day white has cash, and it looks like black's shapes are, so the top side is very thick but it doesn't give easy territory creation, and similar with the left side, like the relationship between like c15 and e14, I'm not saying white should just jump in all gung-ho about it, but it doesn't exactly inspire confidence. So I'm just saying like the future points for black seem harder to make, and it doesn't seem like there's a lot of easy attack targets. So
Yeah, this is pretty
I'm not
flat,
saying,
and this is like still invadable.
I do think that white has made the majority of the territory they will make in this game. I don't think they're going to make a lot more points, but at the same time, I don't think it's going to be very easy for black to catch up in points or make all the make up for those points, if that makes sense.
What stands out to me the most is this cutting point at 0-2.
Certainly.
This is what's making me. This is, I mean, it's a whole move, right? But that's definitely making the difference of me preferring white right now.
Is because of the future of like what will happen with the 0-2 cut.
0-2 is a significant buff to the survivability of this group.
Sure.
Potential of making points here as well.
Absolutely. Agreed. I'm finding it interesting that they're playing so much on the right side. Like continuing to make exchanges here, like S8. I think there must be a reason.
I think it was like pretty much all Sente. That's why. Like
okay, so it's black trying to say like, hey, R6 is a thing, and also R11 might be a thing. Is that the language behind?
Yeah,
S8?
like white wants to make white kept playing because black is just some stones that, I mean, black is the one I think who could have played elsewhere, right?
Certainly, yeah. That's kind of what I'm calling out. Is like there must be a reason that there's a. Well, so he's basically saying R6 is.
I do think that black, like even if black just plays here,
I think that's big.
It is big because it eliminates a lot of what the potential white would have had and keeps this group weak. So there's a lot of group dynamics going on here. In addition,
but then again, yeah, like you said, so like R6 is also basically egging white to to play around 0-2, right? Because it's about double group safety now. Like it's about white safety too.
Exactly. So,
but black has to play
like this will happen soon.
White
doesn't
play
have the ladder, but it's okay.
I'll leave that to you. Alex is playing a Q8 squeeze. The black killed the 2, is what Telegraph said. Alex is planning a Q8 squeeze.
A Q8 squeeze. Q8.
Q8 squeeze.
Oh. Oh, we're talking about for white here. Okay. Yeah. And I would assume that black next then plays, I guess, like, I feel like this would be big.
So my terrible instinct is like, I want to play P5, but that's not good. Don't do this, chat. It's not good for you because then like Q4 and push through, for example.
The reason I also thought about pushing.
Actually, Q4 doesn't work. Hang on, is P5 genius? Hang on, I'm memeing like 90% of memeing, but like is P5 a valid option? I can't imagine. No, it's fake news. Sorry, I digress.
Well, these moves here are all Sente for white, right? to play
Right.
the.
So I was thinking like we just play Q4 instead of answering just like white capture, because like white's already captured that side anyway, and we get the thickness of capturing the other two stones. So like if P5 and Q6, then I just play like Q4 and kind of
But
like flow like water.
I feel like these 5 are big though.
Probably. I don't disagree. Again, this is not good quality. This is good entertainment quality. These questions
Well,
of mine were bad.
I mean, those are like. I mean, they don't always work, but when they work, they're awesome, right?
Right. Yeah, you gotta. It's like a form of like warding off dementia, right? You gotta ask some ridiculous questions as long as you don't play them. Like you
Someone
have
has
to
to.
imagine,
Yeah,
like use your
it wasn't that
creativity.
ridiculous.
Yeah. Um, okay, so yeah, the Q8 squeeze makes sense. Thank you, Telegraph, for calling out. I did not look for that. I might have missed it. Yeah.
Okay, this is my very. So I don't think the game has continued.
Game is not. Okay, we're back at that weird Q8. Okay.
Okay, this is the game. White switches. So yeah, white doesn't have to squeeze right now because there's still this resource too. And technically, right? Technically, these 4 stones, they're not necessarily even that big now. Like, why do we have to save them, right? Yeah. So Tanuki does make sense to me because there's the squeeze option, there's the cut option, and there's the sacrifice all of these stones option. Because why are they big, right?
Right. I mean, sacrificing all of the white stones doesn't. I mean, so it's a matter of like what is more important, right? If we're saying C8 is more important, then it's like, yeah, to give the timing. Like, what do I expect my opponent to put in an extra move or two to like cleanly capture, or do I expect him to respond to my peep? And I think the peep would
Oh,
probably be more.
yeah, I do think this has to be more important. But in general, so after black suddenly lives, right? This is one of those moments that we have to, in my opinion, right? We have to realize that these stones suddenly lost a lot of their importance because
Sure. Assuming
they're not making territory or cutting living groups or anything like that. Or sorry, cutting weak groups.
attackable groups, right? But I mean,
Yeah,
to go back to
they're
what
just
Telegraph
stones
said,
now.
if we can get a reasonable squeeze out of Q8, then they can become a part of like a bigger.
Yeah, then they can become a wall. Yeah.
Right, a bigger mission, if you will. But certainly by themselves, if we didn't have the squeeze possibility, they would be more of a burden than anything. Absolutely agreed.
Like for chat, for example, certainly if we had a situation that looked like, so let's say the situation was like this and, what else?
Like K3 for white or something, or we're giving
Like
black
somehow
more
like
space.
not having a squeeze, right?
Okay. I mean, but now, yeah, okay.
Then I would say like wanting to run these out is that would be a good example of like stuff you would see more in Q games.
Oh, sure. The mentality of I have to save every stone on the
Yeah,
board.
because now they're really just a lump of stones doing nothing.
Yeah, don't save stones if they're not valuable. Not to bring like very nice capitalistic tendencies into it, but if they're just going to be dead weight, please let them die. Like
Yeah,
the
because
amount
like
of investment that you have to
white
put in
could
to save them.
instead play like just as a contrived simple example, right? They could play M3, make
Right.
black take, and then like this area is way bigger than this area.
Right, and or the like direct comparison aside, if they do you mind if I have control for a brief
Oh
second?
yeah,
I'll just put it in arrows. Like basically like Benkyo said, if we're saying like if this is the way that black can give sorry, white can sacrifice the stones on the right. The idea is like so you're saying like I make these points and then I give my opponent these points. But if you're somehow even not convinced by that, as I wasn't as a Q player, for example, I would say like, oh, but why can't I get both, right? Why can't I just run out and then I'm just gonna make life and hey look, I'm saving everything. Hey look, my opponent can't get me. I'm golden, right? Like I've connected and everything's good. If you use a move at 7 to connect, your life is really it's painful. But the trade-off, right, is that black is making points while attacking you, right? That is the value in attacking. So it's a lesson for both players insofar as like if you make your opponent run, that's something if you're getting something for it. And then also you don't have to kill your opponent. Like it's very much in the spirit of attacking. So the idea is that like white should not run because white is just dead weight. White is connecting on dominate points, and black while attacking, should look for what they're going to gain and not look to kill, because you don't have to kill something in order to make it look like a liability, right? In order to gain from it, you don't have to kill it. So that was it. That's all
Exactly.
I wanted to say.
Yeah, and this is a whole rabbit hole that I'll avoid, but it's a topic I'm pretty passionate about recently, which is like when people are learning to be better as like DDK, right? And they're learning the basics, liberties, cutting points, eyes, stop dying everywhere, basically.
Right.
There comes a point where you're already good enough at that, like you hit like 10Q or something, and you kind of have to you kind of have to flip all that on its head, because the path to to keep evolving as a player is like the bottom line is points per move, like average points per stone compared
Sure.
to your opponent. So the more that you defend things and the more that you do like he showed, where you're just running up with like connecting with Dame, you're spending move after move when the current value of a move is easily like 15, 20 points or whatever. Like
Right.
white getting this versus just not getting this, that's like one move potentially. So so you have to like you actually have to fight against that desire to like connect everything and never lose anything, because that's like directly in the way of improvement, and that's how a lot of people get stuck.
And the funny thing is like as you scale that up, right? Like, so for example, I as a lowly, Dom player, am fine with sacrificing stones. And AI, by comparison, is fine with sacrificing groups. High Dom players and professional players, they're like, oh, it's a 10 stone group with like 1.5 eye, and like, they won't sacrifice it easily, mind you, but like that's the level of like mentality that they have. They're like, even a group with 1 eye that has 10 stones should not be spared from our analysis of like, is it better to just throw them away?
Yeah.
Yeah, to answer chat, right. So we have a little bit of mismatch information. This is in fact the in-cup qualifier to find the second representative. Ryan Lee is the first one decided. This game is between Michael Chen and Alex Chi. And it is for the in-cup, not the Chuzhou. Like the players must have used like a previous, game setting, and it just had that not metadata, but basically that description.
Right. So we got this peep and this resistance move.
Yeah. So C9 is not a famous SCG, but it's a common SCG to say like, it can be used sometimes to sacrifice like that B7 stone. In this situation, for example, if black wanted to do it this way, he could and get a squeeze on the outside. Black in this situation, black might connect at C7, but at least the idea is generally with that attached to Sigi, it's basically saying it's damage control plus it's making thickness is the general meaning behind that move. In this situation, it might be a little bit different, but it's at least saying that I'm not going to just connect and let you get your follow-up move. It's basically trying to forcibly act to the peep. It's still reacting to the peep, but it's like not as simple as just connecting, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
there might be a better, more eloquent way of explaining it, but
yeah, if black just connects, white should have a way to disconnect the entire territory. So, for example, I don't know the best tactic. Like maybe white will think just jump is just good enough, like 1, 2, 3, like this.
Yeah, I would certainly, at least for like variations purposes, I would 100% consider the jump. Like if I was trying to max min and really win this game, I would consider moves like D10 and D10 if they Hane on top and see how I sacrifice. But like certainly for the purposes of this, like just the jump is reasonable to evaluate, I think.
Yeah, so black might fight big, or anyway, black could connect up like this.
That seems painful, is my impression.
There's something like this that white could think of. Of course, white has to think what happens if black tries to surround in some way. But let's say black responds, then now black is very much cut.
Certainly. And even in the previous variation where black caps after white plays too, it can even be like a further transition into some shenanigans around C13 Aji as well. But of course, this is like all quite like things that white should and would consider very carefully before doing, because the counterpoint is that if white fails, then it's like a catastrophic loss of points and
for both, really. Yeah, if black does this and white lives inside, it also seems pretty terrible for black.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably because that's where black wanted territory.
It's very useful.
I just don't know, because I had questions about the Aji around C13, D13 anyway, so I don't know how secure that territory was. But I would say agree that like this is a big territory spot for black, and white to just live inside is painful. I just don't know what the Aji on the outside would look like after. But
Yeah,
certainly,
I think like there's a move here, but if black is solid enough around, they should be able to just play like this.
yeah, absolutely.
And
And
then
also,
there's
I don't know if
the cut is. I think it should be fine for black generally, but it's something
yeah.
that black has to keep paying attention to.
I
Any
think
change on the outside will affect it.
if this is the end state to after move 10, then I don't think it's worth white playing out all of the exchanges. Like maybe just the peep is enough for now.
Yeah.
But just as an asking move to see how black would respond. But white did play the Hane.
So this is a Tsuji. The idea is
Right,
if white does push
side.
through, white's just going to hurt themselves over here.
Mm-hmm.
So white sacrifices. Idea is like if black plays here, there's I wouldn't
That move
exactly
is
call this Aji because black can just go there, but there's potential to save half the stones, right? Later on.
sure. I think it's also the fact that M4, similar to a variation that we showed earlier with like
Yeah.
the question around F4, like what is one of the moves? And it seems like M4 would be better played at M4 versus like N3 and black connects.
Yeah, exactly. This is much slower than this one. And then after this, I imagine white would just add a stone here somewhere.
Sorry, chat is coveting various assets, I would say, of ours. Like in your case, the display case. In my case, my beard, which I feel like should not be stolen or considered stealing. It seems like a bit much, but anyway, I love it. Chat is wonderful. Very mercurial in their comments at times. But okay, so we have this move, F5, which is basically saying you've got liberty shortage issues.
It's a very
can't not say
push.
that.
Yeah, it's a very crude push, but it's what is it doing actually?
So just to reiterate for chat, like you see a move like F5 from a came, like if your opponent has a came and you kind of push through, it is a common move that you'll see in like often DDK, SDK games, maybe sometimes, but it's not like 97.5 arbitrary numbers percent of the time. It's a bad exchange, because you're cutting off a liberty for yourself and you're not really necessarily cutting your opponent. And it also gets it's Aji Keshi, so it kills some Aji. So like instead of pushing through, maybe you can attach that one stone and then get some other moves. So it's a lot of bad. And so that's why it should really like only be played if you have a follow-up cut, normally speaking, or if there's some kind of liberty issue. So the way I was able to confidently say that this move has to connect to some kind of liberty issues, even without seeing the follow-up game, is because it has to. There's no way that should ever be exchanged if that isn't the case. And that's speaking in absolutes, so you know it's like something that is probably true because we don't speak in absolutes as Go players as often. So
I'm wondering if it's possibly just to make this like these two stones dead, basically, which is an extra 5 points.
Incentive?
It could be, right? But of course, it could also be something with an extra.
I think it's got to be even more nefarious. Yeah, like an extra. Like this feels like a move that wants to make your opponent like really uncomfortable with shapes and liberties and stuff.
But then again, though,
because then white's connection on F8, yeah, is Sente, right? So
actually, this looks pretty bad for white.
Yeah, this looks pretty bad for white. I don't know where we went. How we.
So I think I'm gonna guess that it's just about this extra little bonus here.
Okay.
Because in the future, let's imagine this push was never played, right?
Yeah. What is white losing from not playing from playing that push?
Well,
basically, is
yeah, I think what white's so now if white pushes there, black may connect.
But isn't that also feels like just as painful as losing those 4 points in Sente?
Well, so if you compare having a stone here versus not having a stone here, it might actually get outweighed by the 5-point value of this connect, right? Because 5 points is not nothing, right? That's almost Komi.
And I mean, I guess the connect is Sente.
Yeah, it's Sente. Like white has to.
Yeah, so
white has to go here.
That wasn't there. Okay.
Yeah, so I think the 5 points do matter more than this connection, maybe.
Okay.
That would be my assumption. If white pushes.
So white saying that timing of because black has an option of playing 6 there in the future. before all those other exchanges are made, I'm going to make black play
Exactly, because
f6
yeah, at
first.
this timing, it seems way more sente right now.
Mm-hmm. Certainly.
Or, after this, yeah.
Because otherwise it's a clean Kema cut. That's
That's a clean cut
clean
into
Kema
empty
cut.
space, right? Yeah. But
Right.
after this all gets clustered up, you really don't need to block it because you could just jump around, right? Or like this area is just open in general anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's going to be my answer, my guess, because I think the 5 points is significant enough.
Right. Okay. I'll buy it. I've purchased it. It's
So white is, white's just going to run. Actually, there is
interesting. That gives future Co vibes.
Exactly,
yeah. Co Peep vibes.
Does white get a good timing later to exchange this?
I guess it's a step Co, so that's painful.
Or does black actually get to play this one first? We don't know, right? Who's going to get what? But what we do know is there's going to be some kind of running.
Yeah, has to be, right? So inadvertently, after making these exchanges, it feels like now black's shape on the left is a little bit more secured because we know that as white runs, black will gain strength.
Yeah, it's going to be territory, I think.
Right. I mean, how much we don't know because B8, but at least we know that there's probably not going to be some kind of invasion. I'm ready to eat those words, but
it's somewhere between less than 10 to like probably less than 15 points in the end.
Yeah, after A15 and stuff. I'm endgame is not my forte, so I'm always, it's great because I'm always watching in the sense of like learning new things and just childlike enjoyment, seeing how people play out end games. People stronger than me as well, of course. Just kind of see the because everyone says endgame is objectively just math, right? And I am, I guess, bad at objectives or just bad at math. Who knows? But either way, it's entertaining to see what endgame people choose to play. Especially when I watch like YouTube videos of like Baluk Doctor or like Yul something, I forgot his name. Liu something, like Korean Japanese pro who plays like every day and posts every day on YouTube. You should check him out. But anyway, yeah. So in the game we have this jump.
Notice that black, like even earlier, didn't bother like saving this, right? Even if it means killing these stones, because it just simply still wasn't big enough. Of course, black's probably pretty likely to get the chance to do it because it pretty much forces white to defend. Otherwise, when black comes in here, this would simply be a weak white group here. And so black coming in would make both run, and then white's territory would get destroyed for free. But if black plays this, white plays there, now the territory is finished. So black doesn't know yet whether they want to take the stones and give the bottom to white, or they want to come into this area somehow and make white play here, right?
Right.
So it's almost kind of Miai in a way too. So that's why there's no need to play there.
No, I totally agree. I wonder if white's also thinking that as black and white, I guess, come out, that white will naturally get some stones, like a stone on the bottom side. That makes black's connection at 0-4 less of a threat to white's bottom, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'll give you control.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what I was trying to say was like, if we imagine a fight in which black comes out this way, white comes out this way, then I'm assuming when black comes out, white's also going to maybe get a stone in this area. And so that means that, like, similar to the variation that you showed before, after black gets a move at like 0-4, now that there is a potentially like a white stone, I don't know where it would be, right? Mm-hmm. I genuinely don't know where it would be. Like, even this one seems a little bit suspicious, like for the right side connection. But I'm just saying, like, maybe, maybe if it's like two moves, we can say like something like this.
Yeah, or you can just throw it at J4 or something, right? For the example.
Right. And so like it's a kind of symphony, a kind of a balance between all of these kind of strength moves, right? And so like we can imagine like something like this, right? And so the idea is that after all of this is settled, assuming nothing dies, we'll kind of see that white might get a bottom side, black might get the right side a little bit, and nothing really changes in the top left. And then like all of this becomes dummy. Gross oversimplification. I don't expect this to happen, but it is one possible narrative, one possible future that we can kind of see as it transpires. But white's like, nah, I'm gonna set up this
Yeah.
go immediately. And certainly this is basically saying I'm gonna start.
He might. There's a chance he'll start it right away if he thinks he has
Ah,
enough co-threats, because it could be
yeah.
better than running forever, right?
So yeah, it's just like, so we've said this a lot of times in the stream so far about the narrative, but like this kind of move at this kind of timing is basically saying either like I'm losing something by not playing this immediately. So like I'm gonna play here and then not start the ko. But the reason I'm not starting the ko is because I think that if I Tanuki, then you'll get actual value from playing here first, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna lose the opportunity if I don't play it now. Or
Yeah.
it's basically saying I'm gonna start the ko.
You're right. Like there could be exactly. It could be that he doesn't actually start the ko now.
Right. It's
It's
just
only after we saw him play it that I started thinking, actually, maybe if the ko could be good, doing it now would just be good.
yeah, I no, I don't know. There's so many things. But I would be very, very hesitant to start this ko, of course.
Yeah,
Because
like it
it's
really comes down to the co threats. I didn't even check them yet.
because when black wins this, oh well, I mean, I guess
But white
theoretically the
also
way
gets a
that,
lot if they win it, right?
well, so the thing is, the way that black wins it, black's not going to win it by playing here, for example, right? Black's going to have to win it by connecting or capturing or something, right?
Capturing, yeah.
And so that means that even if black wins the ko, white doesn't locally have to answer anything in the bottom left.
That's right. That's
And
right.
so that makes a big difference, at least to me, insofar as like how big it is for white to win or lose this ko. I mean, it's obviously important for white to not lose this ko, but it basically, if black captures the ko, if black wins the ko and it's not sente locally, it makes the ko a lot easier for white to handle. And so that's interesting, certainly. So we'll see that in the game.
Like I know if I were white here, if I thought I have better threats than black and I could win the ko without too much consequence, I would do it immediately, just because like the running looks terrible. Like the running looks like it's gonna be pure suffering.
Yeah, certainly after certainly after you give black such thickness and you have a move like f5, if it doesn't actually like consider like helping to capture the group or anything, like f5 just feels so bad to have on the board. I agree that the running feels bad, or at least like not even the running, just like at least let me run from this position versus making me run from this kind of sorry, after you exchange, like don't make these exchanges and then run, that certainly feels worse. So white plays the Sagari here at a8, which is, I guess, a half call for truce.
It takes away black local co threats, maybe, like
Certainly,
connecting under kind of stuff.
and it definitely asks the question.
It also makes black invest more into this group that might be about to die.
Right, and or it makes the ko even bigger, because so this is also painful, right? Like black wouldn't play this way, because then it's basically like a flower ko for white.
Well, actually, if black connects, that white could even just connect under now with Atari.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I don't know if I would. Yeah, well, the question is like if white doesn't, right? Black's not gonna. So if white just plays like this, I don't think black's gonna play here either, though, because it's.
I think they have to, because otherwise this whole fight is not a fight, right? Like black wants white to run because running is pure dame and very, very lengthy looking and very bad for white.
So I agree, but I like this shape of creating this kind of ko, because it's like a direct ko first of all, and I would rather, as black, just like connect here and make my opponent play here, maybe, but maybe that's too safe.
Depends on the points, I suppose, right? Because like how much value was that weak group to black?
That's true. I guess that's true. It is giving white, like, because yeah, black wasn't necessarily weak. I mean, we knew about this potential ko shape, but it's not like black was truly weak and black had stones. Maybe that is too kind. So I would, yeah, connecting makes sense for black, and then white has to come out.
Certainly. Like unless black is for sure gonna lose the ko in a very bad way, I think black very much wants white to stay a weak group here.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It has to be a7 connect. You're totally right. I was being too scared even in my analysis. Yeah, you're right. It has to be a7, certainly.
Oh, that Atari is getting rid of the ko.
The timing there, yeah, certainly getting rid of the ko, and I mean,
yeah, it makes sense to me as well.
But as
Because
opposed to just connecting directly. Yeah.
uh,
Or sorry, yeah, no,
yeah,
that
that's a question. That's a worthy like consideration
um
of which one is better. Well, I think
but
by making white save the stone on the right first,
black
it's
gets
gonna
another
it's gonna
stone
make
towards
black
the center.
f9 sente later as well.
Yeah. I mean, if it, like f8 basically, yeah, like you said, gives f9 something, and also just is like a nuisance stone for white to
It's not
like
an eye
play
after
around.
all, so it's
Yeah,
fine.
it's not an eye after all. There should be a musical. Um, so then we have this beautiful looking camo, if not a little bit sus. It's obvious disconnecting move, and white jumps towards the center. So now we have to note that suddenly, there might be like kind of like a thing being told here, because black is now without eyes, and I wouldn't say black is very very weak, but certainly is not alive.
Yeah,
Even
awkward.
realistically speaking, even this kind of connection is a little bit sus. I don't think white again should try to do anything at the moment, because white's focus should be on the center stones. But even this relationship's a little bit
I don't like
strange.
this for black. I don't know what's
I
wrong.
don't like this for black either, but I have just highlighted some stones that are very, very far apart from each other. So how it actually ends up playing out, like this is my like million feet high level view of the board, but um, certainly we're going to see black resist and try to make sure that white doesn't make a lot of territory on the bottom as well. But how black continues the attack on white center stones, I can't begin to fathom. But another thing we can look forward to.
My endgame brain is thinking about now the comparison of black B3 versus connecting. Because
Black
B3 now
B3
has
versus
a connecting under move now.
we're saying something like sorry it
That's from end of the game almost,
yeah
but
yeah yeah so we're saying like if something like this, then we can play something like this.
yeah, and then I was trying to do the mental math on it.
I mean,
Let's see. It's
I
okay. You
think
can proceed. I'll just keep on doing. It's gonna take a while to have an accurate number.
if for for accuracy, yeah, I'll leave you to the accuracy. I'll just pontificate about not accurate things. Unironically, we have some comments in chat. If I were black, I'd feel terrible if I had to worry about the well-being of f6 stones. Yeah, I mean, and that is the quintessential now story of this game is how's black can handle the f6 stones, because that's the only weak group on the board for black, and really for the weak group on the board that actually has like a major influence on the end of the game, as opposed to like p4 at the moment. Like p4 white stones are technically a weak group, but we'll see. So we have a couple of moves here. So black has made this jump, very much undoubtedly expecting white to play through like this, and follows up with the Hane. So I wonder if black is just expecting a cut and then just some kind of fighting, like, how's white going to handle the bottom stones compared to, like, how's this group going to handle? Not these are really just without thinking moves, but basically the question is like, are we trying to separate let me draw it. Are we trying to separate these stones from these stones? Is that the meaning behind this
I
Hane?
would be a little nervous for black overall there, but definitely when black Hanes, black needs to have, of course, already thought about white's cut.
Right, because it's very much a suspicious.
It's like
like
it's very
it's
dangerous and serious.
because there's no way white's gonna play from like this side, for
No, white
example.
cuts for sure. I think, yeah.
Right. And
Black's the one
so
who I don't know for sure if black would Hane.
what is the purpose of f8 is the question that we have. Yeah, so f8, when we discussed it, was the idea is if we don't play f8, there's this kind of move available, right? So the question is, do we play f8 or do we just connect here? And so the idea is that f8 basically says that this kind of move will be a peep in the future, or at least it will get rid of some eye shape in the future, and it might contribute to, for example, if white wanted to jump like this, it might contribute to a cutting kind of shape. Of course, there are a lot of ifs there, but the question is like, it's not like, what is the purpose of f8? It's more of the question in my mind is like, what is the what is the pros and cons of f8 as compared to like e6, for example.
Yeah.
So if we look in that holistic context, the idea is that f8 might have these additional benefits if they were to transpire. Is our analysis of it. Whether or not that is accurate remains to be seen.
I'll just borrow control for 1 second.
Yeah, by all means.
This is for my own indulgence, the end game, right? But I do
Sure.
believe that I do believe that b3 is around like 2 or so points better than connecting.
Okay.
But black would never do it until it's the right time, because connecting here leaves this cutting point which has no relevance now, but could matter in terms of points or in terms of anything when things happen in here. So there's a possibility that connecting is actually what gets played later. But in terms of the local points just right here, I think connecting is the worst option. Yeah, it seems like
So you're saying simply from a points perspective, it's better to play the variation you're currently showing, but you're saying that connecting would have some influence on if black had stones around like h3 or h5, h3, and then had some relevance of the cutting points.
For example,
there's no world in which I should ask this as a question. Is there a world in which black plays the connection and white doesn't respond immediately to fix this?
White will always respond, but if black chooses that, black forgoes this move, right?
Right. So the idea is that like black would never connect looking at the e2 cut because white will always respond to it, right?
Well, no. So what I mean about this is that let's say something weird happened in here to where, let me see, how would it go?
Yeah, like, I guess that's my initial question.
There's just faint possibilities that like black could have a sente descend or something that is sente because of that cut, because all these liberties disappeared. Something like that, right? Like if you imagine like this, right? Then the difference of this move being sente versus not is worth more than the difference between those.
Sure.
So it's just another thing that they won't do until they absolutely have the right timing.
Which makes sense.
Because white's not going to do this. Like this is 5 points reverse or so. White's not going to. Well, okay. Now that there's this move, it's maybe even more than 5 points reverse. But 5 points reverse is still too small for now.
Certainly. Like right now, it's still about groups and not about points. Absolutely.
I just have fun looking into those. Forgive me.
No. It's cool. I appreciate it and respect it for as me who does not do this kind of like pointing until it's admittedly too late. Okay, so white didn't even go for the cut. White's saying like I'm just gonna slide. Well, so I mean the cut's also pretty committal one way or another, right? Like I showed a kind of crazy windmill variation, but it very much shows the question of like, are we confident that that there is enough? Is white confident that there is enough like that black doesn't have any potential how do I say this, like advantageous follow-up? Again, my moves are probably not the correct and most accurate ones, but the idea is the same. If white gets cut off from the bottom side, is there a way in which then there might even be some like focus here, but I wouldn't even really be. I would just play this immediately as white. I would be like, you want to invest more moves? Like, sure, you can have like a few extra stones. I'm going to get this attack going. I wouldn't even hesitate. But I'm pretty sure it has to be like some kind of like double kind of fight here. I just don't know what it looks like. It's still too vast for me. I've kind of been thrust upon this because
I agree with that.
Cutting shape.
Yeah. Actually, I just thought of. So you showed the variation that was like this, but I think the answer is pretty much maybe that rather than play here, like you showed, like there's going to be something happening here.
Certainly.
And if black needs to, they can push once here or whatever to stop a ladder or something.
Yeah. So the idea is that like if that happens, so the reason I'm still not convinced about that is because like even if this were to happen, my thing is like as black, I still conceptually want to run out this way, because if I let white seemingly connect on this line, like somewhere, like for example, I feel like even if I live on the bottom, it's still too detrimental. I can't accept it. So instead of going into like, or before I guess going to this kind of move at 4, pressuring white, I want to know I want to know the future of like what is the tail of this story running out basically.
I think
where's like
I think it's like
Yeah, and that's certainly what makes it hard, right? Is because it's all of these things at the same time, all related to one another. Um,
yeah, like I think what you're saying is also true. So let's say that black does think that some timing with this is correct, let's just say, or they push first, whatever. But it might be both where they switch to like this now.
Yeah,
Or
and
let's say,
like I think even if I were like Eitan, I would not have confidence in easily saying one way or another what that will end up looking like.
yeah, I know.
Um,
But it
I
makes
think
sense to
even if I were
wanna
like Katago Micro, I would have questions about what this would look like,
it
and
does
my
make
blue move
sense
would
for black
vary.
to want to take this away though, right? Because in the game, rather than cut, white played here.
Right. Which,
So if
and
white does
to be
cut,
fair, I think White's also respecting the fact that it is a complicated fight, and they're probably saying, because at their level they're counting, right? So they're probably saying White feels like White is not like super ahead, but certainly doesn't have to complicate the game. Because right now Black is trying to theoretically complicate the game, uh, because you're making such a, generally speaking, when you have like the stones at like L5 and M6, that Hane is like very much an invitation to cut, and that leads to a fighting kind of reading kind of tangled game. And so I'm sure that White is trying to simplify, and maybe not like to the point of like, oh yeah, I'm easily ahead, but certainly this is too tangled a web, if that makes sense. And if anyone in chat, because we have quite a few people in chat, which is awesome. Welcome, Raiders. Have watched Chen's streams, we know that when Chen is cornered and there's reading go and like kind of like this, it's like grappling almost. It's like wrestling, and there's a lot of opportunities for opponents to make mistakes. So I fully respect the more I would say tempered approach of K3.
yeah, and white seems like visually white seems like fine for points at the moment. So
Right, because if we look at it, right, compared to when we admittedly looked at the score, right, when White was the 6 points ahead, if we look at the territory balance, there hasn't been a very big swing in territory. There have been a very big swing in groups, right? But like territory wise, White didn't really make a lot at the bottom. Black didn't really lose a lot on the left that Black technically had as territory, quote unquote. Um, so let me see if that's actually true. One moment, I'm
we'll
gonna
be right
cheat and
back.
look at the thing. No, White's really ahead right now. I don't. So we're saying that C13B11, C13B11. One moment, C13B11. Okay, C13 is a local weak point, and then B11 is. Are these moves in the game? Let's see where this came from. Let me disable the AI review here. So let me just look at the game. So White backed off. Black played this move in the center towards White's weak group. White extends, Black jumps, make shape and speed here. And Black comes back this way to, I guess, so on this in this board state, Black is behind, and I fully admit that in the discussions I was having with and the review so far with Benkyo, we've been focused on very like local areas, but White is significantly ahead on points here, and so the idea of N5 is very much like connecting, not protecting the cut in the most ponte like proper kind of way, but more saying like I'm gonna make some points here. So the idea is in the future maybe I'll get like N3 or M3, and then I get some more points. But it's still leaving a very big weakness with this kind of cut. But Black is playing a little bit looser, a little bit more aggressively because he's behind on points. So let me see. And so White is just okay. So from this game, basically, let's see. From what point do we say that White is? And this might be like looking back. It might be like logic that is like you look back on things and you have like a 2020 vision. Was the hindsight is 2020, like that kind of saying? But it seems like from this point, White is like, especially like this, White is just simplifying the game as much as they can. Like none of these moves, if you look at them, feel very fancy. None of them feel very special. None of them feel like they're trying to accomplish like too many things at once. It feels very reasonable, like tempered, kind of not tranquil play. It's still pretty accurate, right? But you can see that it's very much based on the idea of let's not complicate the game. Let's just kind of get this to end game and let's just close out the game, which is something that strong players are really good at, and I hate them for it. And hate's a strong word, but there's nothing so disheartening to see as your opponent trying to simplify a game because they know that they're ahead. They're basically taking away any opportunities that you can kind of start a bar fight or like make some kind of scrappy fight to complicate the game to come back to it, if that makes sense. So white playing like this kind of move is not trying to max min anything. It's not trying to get too much. It's not trying to, I mean, not even too much. Like this might be like a fully reasonable move that white should play because it's white's right, for example. But this move is basically saying, even if that's my right, even if I lose a couple of points by not taking it, I'm going to play like this, which may not be true for this exact move, but I'm just trying to capture more like the mentality of white here, right? It's more like, I don't need to get every single point. I just need to make sure that I maintain this lead. Remember, you can win a game by half a point, right? That's the margin. And so you can give away a bunch as long as you don't die in the end, right? Whereas your opponent, in this case, Chen, has to fight for every half point. That's the mentality. And so that is how we see white, like that's basically how we come across a situation where black has like so many cutting points, is because when you're behind, you can't afford to be super solid. Because if you think about it, if one move gains me 5 points, and because Go is an equal game where you trade moves, so if one move gives me 5 points and one move of yours gives you 5 points, the ultimate score is not going to change, right? So you have to kind of try to really make your moves gain every single little piece of it. Sai says Badu Club.
Yeah, I was showing a little side Android figure.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you wouldn't have been able to see it, I think. So yeah.
Okay, no, yeah, absolutely. I do have the screen open to look for.
I did that a few minutes ago, but yeah.
Okay.
Interesting. After everything we were saying about white simplifying the game, now we have this happening.
But I don't. So is this like? But I don't. So even okay, hot take, especially because I haven't read anything. But just from the looks wise, even if we say like, you know, this is so bad. Please don't like ignore the order of these moves, right? But well, I guess we can't let this happen.
Well, yeah, but even black's entire shape is like not connected.
Yeah,
right?
so like even if you like, are we saying like this is like a perfectly, you know, this is not the right move, but I'm just saying like even if you take this into account, actually that's kind of a lot on the bottom side.
That's kind of a lot.
That's kind of a lot. Hang on, that was more than I expected to give. One moment. I'm just saying
dragon,
like,
right?
Yeah. So like even if we
black doesn't have time for this, I think, because he just dies.
Yeah, so the question is like, yeah, exactly. So like even if it's like this, like I don't there's not sorry, I feel like even in my variation I'm giving up too much, but I still think that no matter how crazy this looks, it's still white saying like, if you play here, I'm just gonna, you know, play this one. I'm reading desperately.
Yeah, like he might poke in a bit more, but he also
this actually might be a variation where this is important.
Soon.
Yeah. So it's just like saying, hey, you want this? Like, sure, you know, take as much as is reasonable, but nothing else. I don't know if this is.
I think it's a case of, in my opinion, I think it's a case of like he's not trying to be aggressive, but when it's just like the obvious thing to do, then he'll just
exactly. So it's not like exactly. So there's different levels of it, right? Like for example, if I was playing in Chen, I would give him so much more, right? Like all of his moves, I would just like roll over and be like, here. Even if I was winning by 20 points, I'd give away like 15 points without even batting an eye, right? It's kind of a similar mentality that we might have playing against professional players, and they give us a 9-stone handicap, which I haven't gotten in a while, right? Let me just stroke my ego for 1 second. But the idea is like, if I'm getting handicap stones from my opponent, I don't have to try quite as hard to keep all my points, but that's the wrong mentality. You still have to have like some kind of semblance of like boundaries, right? So if your opponent tries to make too much, you don't have to like 100% punish to the very smallest extra points that you squeeze back from them, but you should at least have some kind of semblance of like, nah, that's a bit too much. Let me just make sure you.
No, you must punish for every last drop.
No. So like that's a good mentality, but it's also a great way to make a game where it's like a, you know, like a knife's edge kind of thing, where if you're absolutely correct, then you kill everything and you win by 100 points, and if you're wrong, you lose by like 20 points or 5 points when you should have won by like 15. And if that's your mentality, like I 100% respect it and encourage you. But for the majority of for the majority of players, I'm saying casually speaking, for people that I have
Yeah,
never
yeah.
met, winning by 5 points or 2 points is enough. Satya, just give us the vibes. Reading is cheating. Honestly, uh, I'll do it. I'll give you the vibes because my reading is cheating, but for the other players, like it's good. It's good reading for them. It's bad reading. So,
So it looks like
100%, I'll provide the vibes.
Mike is going on a very defensive stance here, going for a squeeze on the 3 white stones.
Yeah,
So he's
because
letting white gain a bit with reinforcements on the bottom edge, right? Like J3. So
yeah,
now white's harder to destroy on the bottom edge, right? But he's trying to get forcing moves now in the center to solidify the connections in the center.
let me give you control because I can see maybe a little bit of a squeeze, but I have some sus because I don't. For me, it's still complicated because I'm still looking at moves like L3 and even your connection D4. This is like very much where it gets into like the make sure you count your liberties and know your cutting points.
Yeah, there's still some stuff here, but I don't think it's like a lot. If this happens, well,
White's L3 is
even
or
this
L4 Sente,
this ladder
right?
does work for black actually, but
Well, this is still Sente, right? L4 is Sente for white.
exactly.
The
So,
four stones
well,
as well.
I mean, right now white would die, but white can cleanse.
Oh, naturally. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And black's not
Exactly.
gonna. I mean, if black connects, then black has to go back and fix. But I think in terms of the squeeze, I
Just like
didn't
J7.
finalize what I think the move would actually be. This is obviously just gonna work though, because if white ever tries to cut anything, they just get Atari'd.
Right.
Yeah, Atari'd and Atari'd again. So
Yeah,
that's
that's definitely
that would
painful.
work, but there could be something to ponder about, like maybe this is better, right? So so black will ponder maybe which one's the best, but I think
Certainly, if black can get L6, that makes the moves around M3, L3 a lot more profitable, I
yeah,
guess, for black.
and white can also ignore too, and then just let black Atari with empty triangle. But I definitely so white's been really on the offense. Like I would say, this whole part here, I just don't think it was good for black. When white got to run out and black played here, and then we just all went in this direction. White's obviously quite safe with this group, like very quickly.
Right.
Yeah. I think white definitely feels like you're saying. I think white feels like he's ahead. I think he feels ahead.
Certainly.
Yeah. And yeah, it seems to me that Mike is definitely playing moves that I think that acknowledge his group's weakness. I mean, he tried to get a little extra here instead of playing like a boring extend.
Boring, but reason like
Yeah.
so there is something to be said, and I'm not judging Mike and certainly not this specific move, but just in general, like when you are behind, you have to play for gains, right? You're trying to get every single point, but there is a still a baseline kind of level of reasonableness that like even if it's moving it feels boring like J6 and it doesn't feel like you're trying to penny pinch and like optimize and everything, but it for future shapes, for future moves, for future liabilities, it just makes so much sense to play a little bit safely. Those moves are important and to realize, and they're always much easier, at least for me, to find in a review of games as opposed to when I'm actually playing them. But certainly
Yeah.
knowing when to like embrace those fundamentals and making the proper shapes and moves even when behind is a skill that I have yet to begin to learn.
And
um,
Session asks I don't know how to say his name, but he asked a good
Probably
question. I was
session.
gonna bring this up too, which is like as I kind of expected, white did not just cut actually. Because it's like why not play here, right?
Right.
This is pretty scary for black because it's threatening this cut, which means that this black connect over here doesn't do much. And it's also setting up all kinds of disconnection, right?
Right. No, certainly. It's yeah, the connection, or
I
at
think
least
I
like
think Mike
maybe making exchanges before we connect. But yeah, in this situation, I would certainly want to play something like K7 before I would want to play something like K4 or G4. But let me reiterate that for the chat is that G4 is safe on points and it makes it look like a very clean territory. And I can understand if some players in chat would be immediately, instinctually want to play like G4. But remember that the idea between right now is still about the fighting of groups. And if those 3 stones can live without playing G4, that's what white should do, because the impact is much higher to threaten in the center or threaten to disconnect than just simply accepting G4.
Like if white just did it, black would absolutely be able to connect everything.
Right.
Due to the liberty shortage of white leading to squeeze and stuff, whether it's here, but like if this turns out to be the move black was going to play, then this is kind of like the move for both players, because white played there, which is threatening this cut at A. And if this cut at A is here, that means that this connecting over here at B does not at all kill the white group. So
right. And
black,
in fact, white makes territory, makes points in the center. Like it's kind of like a.
And I even wonder though, could white? He probably read things out, but like it feels like white could have continued around here, even instead of connecting.
Like something around like J9 or something.
Which one? J9. Right. Like, yeah, some move that is like continuing to disconnect basically. Because there's a real possibility, I feel like, of just black just totally dying here. Now, maybe he read that it's not safe, or maybe he just didn't think he needs to, right?
Or like you can't even afford to not or to care about dying, really. It's kind of like if you keep adding moves, you're going to lose on points anyway, so you may as well make it a fight. But
I didn't really read too much of it yet, but I really, my instinct, right, what I'm guessing that AI probably would say is that I think white could just keep going and maybe this whole thing just dies.
Certainly, but 100%, I a million percent agree that AI would probably say that. But from a human perspective, I mean, it really depends on the human from human too as well, right? But like the same human that played like K3, I think, would also not necessarily need to win by 100 points. But that it might be a gross oversimplification. To be fair.
there are cases where the big kill is actually the simpler win. Not always, usually not, but yeah. But I mean, yeah, if white feels ahead, then why not just cut at G4?
Right. Certainly. And just black, for the people just joining us in chat, this is so Ryan Lee is already qualified for the Cup. And is one of the representatives. The winner of this game will be the second person. It's between Chen, aka Michael Chen, and Alex G. And so currently the state looks a little bit dire for Michael. And we are seeing kind of towards the middle of the middle game. So now white chooses to cut, but I think this cut is probably, if I had to guess, more about the connection of like the G11 one space jump more than about disconnecting black.
Yeah, this black bump is trying to threaten these 2 cutting points here in Sente, and then can go back and fix around here.
Right.
White is threatening to, well, yeah, so white is threatening. Which one actually? Which one is white threatening to do? I mean, is it just the capture? No, maybe white has something more powerful. Just push. No, here.
I was briefly considering the last one, L8. But no, I think black just connects the stones. So I think it's even if white. So like even if black lives in the center, I think if white can cut off the G13 stone, white's gonna make like 5 points maybe in the center and the top side there, and that's gonna be enough anyway.
Yeah, bottom line, white has connection.
Yeah. And so like if we can imagine that white makes some points around like J13, even if black lives with like 3 or 5 points in the center, it's probably gonna be enough of a trade that white still makes territory and black doesn't really make territory. I mean, both of them make the same amount of territory, and so therefore the game balance doesn't change, and white's still ahead by the same amount, basically.
Yeah, and white could even use their Sente, the after the dust settles, white could even just invade this.
Yeah, for example, the person that's playing calmly to end the game, I don't think would, but yes, in theory, it's possible that we can.
Well, if you have a bunch of like whatever, some like, let's say some stones around here. It's not necessarily uncalm if it's easy, right? Like it
Sure.
depends
Like if
on
you have nothing to lose for it. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it
absolutely.
depends on the calculation. Like if it gets to where like a move like this, let's say, is actually capturing or stopping white from getting away, then yeah, right? But if white can just get away, then it's like there comes a point where maybe you might as well invade rather than just give it, because it depends how easy the invasion is, basically. If
I
it's a
mean,
risk
it.
at all, then yeah, we would just see maybe some kind of pressing, right?
So I think the invasion thing is like, it's more like, for me, my perspective is, if I'm not going to kill you, I'd rather just press you, because I'm going to make territory in the center. If I invade you, then I have to kill you because I'm going to lose all that territory in the center. Is kind of how I'm looking at it. But like, I don't think it's unreasonable to say that we're getting rid of black's territory too. But at the same time, for me, it just seems, again, for me, it just seems easier to make territory in the center and just like force black to
Yeah,
take
well, at
point.
the end of the day, it depends on how many points the value.
Naturally, yeah. Any decision in the end game should always be on points first, right?
Like if you win
Assuming
for
versus
sure
total.
with this, then then yeah, then sure, right?
Right.
Yeah,
No,
it's far
makes sense.
easier, of course. Yeah,
Um, so let us see. So the game is
yeah, I'm gonna give
currently
you control, and that
okay.
chat is why counting the score, right? When you
I'm just bringing it back to a very reasonable, like, the Aesop's fable kind of like end of this. That's why counting is important, chat. Remember, remember this
yeah,
moment.
you can't make those decisions at all. Like you're
Exactly.
just
You
like
could be.
flipping coins randomly if you never count.
And I mean, to be fair, like, we know, because we're observing and we have AI at our fingertips, that we know that white's like 15 points ahead. But if you can imagine, and I mean, at this level, they will know that. But if you imagine it in your own games and you don't know you're 15 points ahead, every single move from black, or every single move that you might be considering, might just be like, maybe I feel like I'm behind, but really I'm like 5 points ahead, right? That colors the decisions I make. That means maybe I'm playing stupidly aggressively when I don't need to be. So counting is undeniably important. I
Yeah,
say like seldom counting in my games, but it's fine. I don't. It doesn't. We can spit out facts even if we don't follow them. Facts, like,
yeah, yeah.
no
I can
printer.
say with confidence that myself, as well as I can speak on behalf of like other, let's say like Fox 8 Dan people that I know,
Sure.
like even at that, like I mean it's not Fox 9 Dan, right? But a lot of games are decided by fault by wrong assessment. Like somebody thought they're losing when they're actually winning. Like it happens all the time, even at these kind of levels. Does it happen at Michael Chen, Alexander Chi level? Probably a little bit,
Probably,
right? A
yeah.
little bit. It'll happen less, but it'll happen a little bit still.
I would agree with that. Why? What is this? What is this move? So this one's saying basically, um if you play here, I'm gonna play here. That's easy to understand. But otherwise, what is black getting from this exchange? There's just creating a G12 maybe problem
Oh,
in the
he's just making a
future.
cutting. I think he's just making sure white ends off with a J12 cutting point at the end, maybe.
Oh, G12 cutting point. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. I mean, I guess that makes sense as an exchange. I don't think there's a better way for white to play to it, because we know white can't play this one.
It's
So
it's probably I think it's just to make sure white's shape is not just a straight line.
yeah, I think that totally makes sense. Certainly. Um,
Otherwise, no hope for anything.
Truth. We can't. Not to just address this immediately. We can't. Yeah, there's no point in cutting here, because in this situation, you're never going to play this one because you. Oh,
Well, if black cuts the other way, actually,
sorry.
um,
If you were saying what? If black
if
cuts the other
black
way.
if black, uh, never mind. Yeah, no, it's just
Hang on, let me go down this variation real quick, because I'm just curious to see what is the result here. Is there some shenanigans with this
almost
kind of ladder?
no. White will capture.
You're right, of course white will capture. But uh wait, maybe that's
Yeah,
bad.
black is quite short of liberties in general on that side.
Yeah. Yeah, black has no time to. I mean, even if this is all like super wishful thinking, I was just playing it out without reading anything, which maybe is embarrassing on stream, but it's fine. Okay. But hang on, is there not any kind of force way to capture here? Because this would be ideal, right, for black.
I would be
I mean, for
thinking
that,
of
that group.
I would be thinking of how to do double threats between this three stones or the L. So like back a move or so.
Okay.
Like, is there some way to set up so that white loses one of them, right?
So something like this, right?
Actually, I'll just grab control for a second.
Yeah, by all means.
I just realized like
Squeeze into ladder B7 at 10. We'll look at that. I promise.
yeah.
Okay.
Now does the ladder? Oh, the ladder works for black, so black can just ladder.
Okay. That'll work then. So that's what we're threatening.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
Actually,
Yeah. There's no timing for white to reject this. No, I guess not. One tempo behind. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
right. So the real game. So this is the real game, I think, right?
That's the real game. Yeah.
Wait, no,
No. What? No, sorry. Go one line. Go one line. Scroll up.
Oh,
Scroll up.
one
That's
line
why.
down?
Yeah. I was like, wait. There seems to be a lot of bad exchanges here. This
Wait,
must
is
be
this
my
really
variation.
No, this is your variation.
This is my variation. Yeah, this is my variation. If you scroll up, 154.
Okay, so this
154
is the real
line.
game.
Yeah. That's the real game.
They're just thinking now. Okay.
Okay.
So black will. I mean, black would of course think of this. But
Well, because like we have, so like yes, I initially agree with and fully agree with H11 means that G12 is a consideration that white has to make in the future. Even that reasoning in and of itself is enough of a reason to play H11. I agree with that. But we're just trying to see if there's another reason. And so
yeah,
this is
I was
game.
thinking that even giving white a cutting point could have been a reason, but let's say that black is winning the ko each time. Then white connects, then black connects. If white cuts, black gets the thing.
Right, but that thing doesn't. Oh yeah, black. Yeah. That thing leads to that. Yes.
Yeah, so
That
then
makes
therefore
sense.
white
Ladder.
would not cut, but white would do something. Black would connect, white would maybe cut again. But the problem is white's dead.
So in the game, they actually did play this cut, this G12 cut.
So the game's about to get decided, I think.
Insofar as this code, right?
Yeah, I believe in my feel like my
It has to be
assessment,
this code. Black can't just connect. There's no way.
I feel like the game's gonna get decided here if we say that it wasn't already decided.
That's a fun move. F9 is a fun move, certainly.
And now we see the move, the Atari from way earlier coming back. The F8 move.
Yeah. The fateful Atari, if you will. Get it? F8.
Fate. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that shouldn't be allowed.
Just hope they don't play the move like E10 ever, right? That's
right,
fine.
So we're talking about so instead of just connect, black wanted to group up these white. And
right.
our presumed assumption, our presumed benefit about it is that this can be Sante, which of course is threatening.
Which is what happened in the actual game, right?
Yeah, so now it comes into play, and it's very important that black made that exchange earlier on instead of just connect. Right, so we are here, and black is using that. If white responds in some way, then black will, of course, put this back. So this is definitely seemingly game-deciding ko.
Yeah, certainly, because black can't afford to waste a tempo if it's not going to be this kind of, I'm going to save my group kind of ko, or I'm going to, So 1, 2, 1. So we're saying that white will connect at 1. Yeah, as opposed to something like this.
Yeah. It makes sense for white to block in this way because as probably Mardipave is implying, we had it to where now if black goes here and white cuts, black doesn't have time for this because actually there's a Atari and
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's good insight because it also shows that that white's response to this move should be taking black's liberty.
Right. Absolutely.
Normally,
which I'm sure the players will.
Because going here normally would give me more things, right?
Yeah.
But in this case, liberty matters.
Right. I'm just as easy as it was for I'm sure most players to see this, but like I wouldn't say most players, but a lot of players to find G12. Found G12, just couldn't find the net squeeze Atari ladder thing. But yes, this connection, like Marty said, everyone says is taking away liberty, which is vital, the vital point. Not actually vital.
So black has to maybe win the code twice.
Okay, so let's. So we are currently at this point in the game. And so just for viewers in chat, just for the easier analysis is like if this happens, then even if this happens, black's gonna capture the white stones on the left, and that is a failure for white. So white cannot
Actually,
allow that. Hmm?
there's a double Atari after.
After this, there's a double Atari.
Oh wait, I'm sorry, I'm being stupid.
No, you're probably looking at a different variation. You didn't sync or maybe something like that. But
No,
I'm just showing the simple like devil's advocate, not devil's advocate, but like the simple playthrough moves for just general chat viewership. So white can't connect there. So even if white connects here, then we'll see that black is alive and white has captured, or black has also captured those 3 stones. Also a devastating failure for white. So that means that if white were to play here, for example, then it's the same kind of situation where if we count the liberties of this group, we'll see that black wins this liberty race by 1 liberty. And so that's why we keep calling it a ko, insofar as like white has no option but to protect either with this move or with something like this. I don't know how debased life would be if this is even ever a consideration.
Oh man.
But it seems like a needless move to make. Hoarding all kinds of ridiculous. No, it doesn't seem to be. It's just doesn't make sense. So anyway, assuming that doesn't get played, because I don't know if it's by mental stamina or exhaustion or fortitude, but I don't want to really read it out either because it doesn't seem reasonable to play. But so assuming white will play like this to with the additional benefit of clearing up that liberty, black can only play the ko, realistically speaking. And so yeah, as we've been saying for like maybe the last 5 minutes, it really just comes down to this ko. So let's continue with this. So most fundamentally, white can't afford to lose this ko, because so in that way it's kind of like black has gained something, because white would have, if white had their way, they would love to like simplify this game and just end the game with moves like these that just solidify territory, but black has successfully made a way to basically make it a ko for the game. And yeah, so that is inherently important. Yeah, so this should not have been, I guess, allowed to happen. So I guess the first culprit I would look for is like this kind of move. So maybe this was like we discussed before, like white saying, I'm allowing you to play kind of hopeful moves and I'm going to make like certain points off of them, but there's still like a limit of what I will allow. And maybe this kind of like rebuke is maybe a bit faulty, which is to say allow black to make this kind of.
Yeah, I don't like, it's tricky with when we're talking about the AI score thing. Like what if the AI score thing is only because it expects the ko to happen, it expects white to win the ko, etc. It's funny because sometimes you'll have a game where when white thought that they're ahead and then they then they dodged the ko, but then the ko was needed for them to be ahead, and it's like, okay, well.
Right. And so I'm actually using the AI at the moment. This variation is an AI variation. And
Gotcha, yeah.
So this is the blue move for white to make this Atari, this cut.
So let's say white just does something else instead, right? Then how close?
Wait, I just want like, yes, I 100% want to address that, but like let me just the one thing I did find when I was going down this AI variation is that after white captures, black's only move apparently, apart from like connecting here, is to play this connection Atari thing, right? And black is that, like, of course, this is the few playouts that we have on OGS at the moment, but this is -8 points for black this move.
Okay, so
but weirdly enough, what's funny is after white plays here, and black forces here, and white plays this ko Atari thing, it's basically saying your best move is to recapture the ko, which is an illegal move, right?
Oh, what?
So it's like, so this is the so in this board state where we are currently in the game, or we will be in the game, white's only move that it's showing, mind you, is to recapture the ko, which is an illegal move. So it might be a situation where the AI is just like, because it's a hard fight or whatever, it might be like glitching a bit. But it is intriguing at the very least that it's not really a consideration. But okay, sorry, you were saying earlier.
Like let's say white just doesn't go for the 2-stone capture and just like does something that avoids ko, like so go back more, and then
okay. So like here.
I guess white's alternative isn't even to play anything though. It's just a Tanuki, right?
Yeah, and it would also beg the question of why make those exchanges and give black like G14.
But it's like how ahead is white without Ko though? Because maybe white's ahead enough anyway.
Yeah. So fair. So right now, assuming a big assumption, but kind of assuming no Ko. Let me just throw in a move. So white's AI move here is supposed to be this one apparently, and it's saying that white's ahead by like 15 points if they play this.
Right. Okay. That is
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's still like a reasonable, comfortable thing. I'm gonna turn off AI review myself here because it's as confusing as it is. Yeah, but like this was 100%. Like these exchanges were 100% looking at that cut, because you wouldn't make these exchanges without looking at that cut.
It's very possible that Alex, he might know that he's ahead, but he might not think he's like super ahead, right? I mean, 15 points is big, so he probably thinks he's fairly ahead, but by how much, right?
Right. So let's catch up to the game because I think they have made a few more moves. So we have this, and so black has they're playing a lot of moves very quickly. Okay. So this is the actual game now.
Well, a trade happened, huh?
Yeah, so white captured and black captured. So okay. And so white is saying that I'm still ahead even if I give you these stones.
Yeah. They must have closed the gap a bit though, since black was.
Let us see.
I mean, like white got thick and points and stuff, but like black was the one almost dead.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I think that black gained something, but I think it was also probably right that, I mean, I'm sure white only played this variation because they've counted that they're still ahead by playing this. Otherwise, they would.
Yeah.
But I certainly think that black definitely came back, made some points certainly. Okay, so we are going through here, and it looks like we are now coming more into a simplified endgame. I say that, but like black's group is not super happy on the bottom side. Admittedly, it's not like if white wanted to connect, right? White can just play like this pretty simply, but that's also pretty passive. Assuming like this kind of move, it's very much still on black to like something like this is going to be inherently problematic. I say not reading, but then again, I should probably read because it seems like white's also like
I think
low on liberties.
If it's like that.
Yeah. But in this, yeah, I would want to play something like the cut, which is actually played in the real game. I was also going to mention something like this maybe. But yeah, so white just says, no, I'm going to cut you. How dare you try to threaten my group with one eye when you yourself have 0 eyes to speak of, you blob of stones. And so, yeah, so white cuts basically, if anything, to make shape, and also to basically say that black, you don't have liberties to do this. And so this is like a one-way street, and there's no ladder here to play out. So these are basically like forced exchanges. White will run out. Black, I can't imagine playing from the left or the right side in this situation because, of course, more than the 4 stones, this clump of stones in the center is kind of the thing to be focusing on. But in this situation, reasonably speaking, from looks alone, white is going to gain something here. And if it looks like something, I don't know, something like this, for example, then even this is crude, and I don't think it's going to happen like this. But like even this is like a double Atari kind of situation. Although in this situation, if this happens, like black does end up. But no, there's a lot of. This is a Ko. Yeah, this is a Ko. What is the? I don't know what this is. It's not even a Ko.
It is a Ko.
No, sorry, it is a Ko. You have to play from this side. Yeah. You have to. Actually, wait, no. You can play this.
Throw in, yeah.
Yeah, throw in like this. And it's not a Ko. It's just. So anyway, that's not going to happen. This is not going to happen, chat. I'm just saying, like, for memes and dreams alone, that basically, and that's because white tried to play Q6, but certainly it's going to be some kind of shenanigans here, but the idea is that black has so much more to lose than, or black has so much more to do. Black stones have to be much busier than whites in this local situation. So black does play from the right side. Completely not what I had imagined at all. And so we're saying that if white extends here, what is black saying? That now they have the liberties to play something like this? Is that the language?
Seems like, yeah, I'll just borrow this.
Yeah, by all means.
So, because this cut, let's say, right, this cut does just fully cut. So black is just has to just play out the liberty fight. So let's say that black
Hane connect, right?
here.
Yeah.
Then white has 3, and yeah, so black's just dead
by 1 liberty.
So black actually, I don't think black can play this yet, unless they want like a ko instead.
So black will play something like M8 and say, "Hey, white, you have to play L2," or something.
M8. It's very tricky for black because let's say black plays this, but black's
where are you gonna run to now? Yeah, like you're still gonna die. Yeah, that's not. It's pretty tragic.
This is the game right now, I guess, right?
This is the game right now. Yeah, assuming no misrecording.
Well, let's say we go in the same direction. Like,
can we gain 1 more liberty is the question, or if we can play like from like 01 side, yeah, something like this.
White takes first.
Wait, so but white wouldn't play 4, right? Because we learned that black can't make another liberty by playing it 4. So white would play.
Well, white's just taking a liberty though.
Sure.
Like, just yeah.
But certainly playing like Hane connect at M, I guess that makes a ko, specifically.
Yeah, still ko.
White's throwing. Yeah. Where are we missing something? If we are missing anything, let's see.
Does black have any?
If we're missing anything for white, right? So black. So we're saying that black playing.
Yeah. Yeah. The game they just played here. This does seem to be the only move with any promise if we don't want just the ko. And this move is going to give what? Well, I mean, there's still this cut though, but it works differently now because black can actually connect out here.
So maybe he's setting up the. But I would rather have a ko than have to live with this group in general, right?
If it went like that though, which it might not. Okay, if it went like that, black didn't actually really gain liberties because white can still play like a loose ladder type thing.
Hang on, is that if I play? Okay. Yeah, I was wondering if we could throw in somewhere, but maybe so after. Yeah. No, it's nothing.
Yeah, I mean, even like this, it looks even worse for black now.
Yeah. This is
although there's gonna be this, so that's a bad variation. But
no, it's still horrendous because L2 is like almost sente basically for white. White M7 is not possible, says Marty.
Yeah, well, that's because white because of this.
Yes, a ladder.
Yeah,
a very, very short ladder.
And also, even if white fixes here,
wait, but now black has the liberties, right, to play this.
Yeah, black has the first move, so there should something should be different. Or does black connect actually?
I don't think black connects because we haven't cut off Q4 yet.
Q4. Do we need to cut that?
Well, in order for black to play, so if black plays M7, then white can just connect underneath, right? Because there's not a.
Oh. You're right.
So.
Oh, this actually happened in the game. Okay. Yeah, but black doesn't. I think black is treating this as a endgame reduction.
But is there not a ko? Is there like? Didn't we have the ko thing?
Like black. So everything happening here. Black only played that because he's thinking about endgame, I think, and now he's gonna go back to the actual fighting moves. Because we see that black did not gain liberties from doing any of this, right?
Right. So theoretically, we're saying that black should still be able to go back to the previous variation of
black is
Q4.
Black is definitely going to switch to down here in a second.
But the idea of him getting a ko out of it is not that should be unchanged, right? Before making all these exchanges.
Yeah, the reason he's doing all this is because if white got to block off here, white would have a lot more endgame for the center territory. Like if black just doesn't play anything right now, right? And just does whatever down here. When white plays out this liberty fight and gets a stone there, right? You see that this is all territory now, right? That's what I'm saying is just inevitably black has to play down here, but first black is making sure that this gets reduced. So black is just Atariing through, not gaining any liberties, but just reducing, right?
Right.
Yeah. And now black goes down.
下がりか。下がりは let's see. 下がり I I see. I did not see before, but I guess I see now. So Sagari is like a solid connecting move, question mark, right?
Yeah.
And in our co-variation, we were trying to capture... Was it ever a possibility to capture white?
Yeah, like black.
So if we start with Q4, for example.
Yeah. Then this, and then like this will be a white takes first co, right?
So the question, I guess, is, are we in such a board state that we are saying that because I guess we capture the 4 stones on the left, we don't have to capture this white group? Like this M1 move is basically saying I don't, or saying like I'm going to lose out.
Well, it can still be co here, right? Because if white eventually has to play here if they want to kill black, but then black can still throw in.
Certainly.
But this one is interesting because is there any possibility of a Seki here now? If white descends? Oh no, I'm being dumb. Yeah, no, black would just... Wait, what? No, yeah, black would die. So black cannot play N1, so black can only play here, right? White, if white wants black dead, then here or here, of course.
Yeah, I don't think we can really risk playing 1 as white unless we're really certain about it. Because like we don't want to die.
Unless I'm wrong and there can never be Seki. This is the only move that could possibly make Seki, I think. Because that's exactly where black plays to make the ko.
I mean, yes, logically speaking, yes. So if we can read to the fact of saying like white isn't going to die here. So you're saying like black will just play like L1 or something, or K1 or something.
Yeah, like let's say it's like this, right? Then this seems to be
black dies. Seki, because right? black dies by 1 liberty.
Oh,
right?
Black dies by 1, you're right.
Because of Q4.
Oh, well, there we go. Then maybe this descend is just bad or what? Let's see. Yeah, okay, anyway, ko. He made ko.
Yeah, anyway, it's ko. Yeah, it's got to be, like, at the very least, it's got to be. Because even Seki is like, even Seki isn't good enough, right? You have to kill something, because Seki is like, no change in, like.
So just different paths that led to the same ko, yeah.
All paths lead to code. Desperation endgame. Okay.
Yeah, and I couldn't find any way to make a ko that black kind of takes first, or to get like a better...
That feels like a lot to ask, like logically speaking, just at a high level. Like, I want a ko that I take first is kind of...
I mean, sometimes sometimes the order is important, and then like it's easy to miss, but...
No, certainly.
Yeah, here I couldn't figure it out.
So at least we know, if not for the center ko, because, you know, white said, no, just take my stones, this ko should at least decide the... Certainly, if white wins this ko, it's resignable. There's nothing. E17.
That is not... that's definitely not gonna be real Sente, I think.
That's... Yeah, it can't be, right? Because we have...
No, it's a carpenter square with potentially like 2
Hane already. Like... I don't remember. I don't remember even a little bit. And carpenter like, square with 1 Hane.
Even Liberty on the outside as well.
Is like Seki at worst? Oh, at worst? I don't know. Sorry, y'all.
Right.
I will link you. Actually, I don't know if we can send links in chat, but Sensei's library has all of the 27 variations of Carpenter Square. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a Hane here and a Liberty here that you cannot just kill.
Speaking of that, that is the game, right? Black did play B18, so we're going to find out in real time. Speaking of time, I don't know what the time... Oh, it's on screen. Okay, so we have Bioyomi.
So white finished the ko. White captured all the black.
Okay.
I think we're gonna get a resignation pretty soon.
Yeah, we're gonna see how, if there's like karmic wheel, if you will, and there's a misclick win, but in this time in Chen's favor, and not Alex's favor maybe.
If this turns
Um,
into an actual direct ko, then there's still some sort of hope, right? But
I don't know. Let me see if I can cheat sheet here real quick and pull up the Carpenter Square real quick and just
I mean, this is very
because
big.
if we do this over stream on stream, it's not going to be any kind of efficient use of time, or we can just watch how they handle it. Yeah, because we are already out kind of here, and so
Not
the logic.
necessarily. Not necessarily. I think we're sealed.
If we answer at 3, but if we're allowing for a no, there's not a covariation. Are we? What is the nature of this seal, really?
Well, this cut can never do anything because that's Atari.
But maybe getting that connection in Sente lets us cut and extend. And okay, wait. Actually, wait. Maybe I'm trying to see. In your same variation, all the way to the end there. How does black protect? I guess black would protect at like J15 or something, right?
I mean,
After white connects.
Here, I mean, even here.
Yeah, and so
I don't think that's Atari. I'm not seeing.
So the idea is that we're gonna cut at C14 and extend. That's the end goal, maybe, I say.
And this is the game actually now.
Okay, so if we imagine a situation where we can get C14 in an extension.
I think there's just no liberties for white though. Like this is always
at the moment. Yeah. But
yeah.
When will it be important? Why?
I don't think there's any hope for a change about that.
No, I think that's fair. If there is, yeah, because the force didn't have one.
Even this part, unfortunately, has this.
Yeah, true. But at the same time, I'm still not wholly convinced that this B18 is killing the corner.
No, yeah,
that might obviously be a lack in my own logic.
That part I agree. Although, if this liberty ever matters, then now because of how white played, white's going to lose all this. Like in case the liberty matters, because I actually am far from an expert on the Carpenter Square, so
I'm pretty sure that even if white loses all of that, assuming white doesn't die in the corner.
Yeah, I agree. Actually,
white's fairly ahead.
Yeah, if white just has this and then has this. Yeah, exactly. Because I was even thinking if this whole thing dies, I would still want to check the board, right? So.
Right.
I mean, before white made it bigger, like if it was this died and then this died, and then white gets like next move or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Visually, I couldn't just assume that white was ahead, that black is ahead. I have to count. So. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's too much to do with this squeeze, because it doesn't.
So I think they've played out a flurry of moves here, probably in the game.
Oh yeah, they played a bunch of moves. That's true.
So the idea is, again, trying to. So white just connected underneath, to what? Oh, white's saying, I'm gonna make an eye, is what white's saying. I'm gonna make a second eye there on the first line, which is wild and kind of cool.
But it's black's turn now, though.
Oh, well, black has to play H13, right? And so white, pretty. I mean, any move will give him an eye there. Yeah, that's
the game
wild.
Is gonna be over, yeah.
That's disgusting. That's like, it's not immediately like the hardest thing to read, but just to look for like a eye on the first line. I'm sure, like, that's what you'll look for if you're not trying to make ko or seki or die.
Black needed to Atari this side for any hope, I think. Because I don't know if this matters. Like 1, 2, 3. Like it's still.
Wait, so what did white? What did we went through the game really fast? But what did black played C12? But you think that black had enough time to not do that?
Black needed to go here, I think, because this one allowed something to happen here. I mean, white had an extra descend also, but yeah, so white descended one more time. Or wait, what was the order of moves? Yeah, it was. Oh, okay. So black captured these. Yeah, and then white
black capturing those.
I definitely don't think. I mean, I didn't think about it for too long, but I think this is the right Atari.
There might be. If white just played like C13 or something, and black connects and white connects, then black has to play like D13, and then.
No, I don't think it works.
Okay.
Right.
Oh yeah, because black doesn't have to say those two stones. Black can just play on the right.
I think it just reverts to the same thing that we see that just doesn't work for white. That's why, I mean, maybe time.
Yeah, you're right. So yeah, B11 should be played.
Like I could obviously I could be wrong because Chen is the one who played this, right? But
but I mean, anything happens in Byoyomi. But I think you're right about B11. So says the AI anyway. But it seems like so we have a variation: white C13, black B13.
yeah, I'll give you control.
No. I don't want it. I don't want it. I think the game is actually
Yeah, the game's over.
End state. Okay.
Apparently.
So we have a final and board position that looks like
game information. The game information doesn't say a result yet.
Other club says GG white wins, but that could have been a memeing statement as well. But let me go back to the original game here because they don't look like they're online. So it does show that white wins by resignation after white plays D16 is the final move of the game. If you shift click, it will actually take you that move. True. Because luckily they got that functionality from KGS too.
Right. So there's no point that he plays this out because he knows this is coming next. Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. Exciting though. It's nice that it ended in a bit of a climax or kind of a double climax, right? This part and then this part.
Yeah, double climax indeed. Certainly, like two big fights in two big parts of the board. I don't think that. So, stuff can be said about how maybe Chen got or Michael got behind in the early middle game and middle game, but certainly the kind of like I think his ability to capture the 4 stones there was definitely not expected by Alex Chi. And of course, I'm pontificating a bit because I don't know what Alex is actually thinking, but certainly like creating that F9 kind of was probably not expected. And even the top side, I think there's a lot to be said of like how exactly we can try to complicate the game, even from a losing perspective, like a losing.
Yeah, I'm sure Chen, that's probably one of his strengths, is figuring out all the shenanigans.
Yeah, and I'm sure he's probably gonna like maybe not kick himself for it, but like I'm sure the next stream's topic, if anyone has watched Chen streams, will have like, values like, hey, we should look for these kinds of shapes, or we should, maybe, I guess really shape wise, maybe focus on it a bit. But I am not one to throw any kind of stones in any kind of glass house, but it was a really fun game, certainly to talk about. And there's a lot of like theory, like just, and this is true for most games of Go, even from like DDK level to professional level, is that there's a lot of themes that come up in a game of Go. And I feel like anyone can learn from them at any rank. So certainly I will take this in mind and kind of these cool variations that I've seen, and the arrow pointing at like E5 being like, but right. Definitely a lot to learn from this game anyway.
Yeah, what I'm curious about finally at the end here is like, where did Black go wrong the most? Because I think from a pretty early point, Black was just in an unpleasant situation shortly after this.
So it looks like it looks like R7 was kind of the beginning of maybe some bigger issues.
And maybe like R7, I mean, I don't know I'm not looking at the AI, right? But this doesn't have to be like bad or anything. But of course, this part was complicated. Now, I mean, okay, maybe I'll turn on the AI review now. So
yeah. That's what I was kind of trying to answer your question, Marty. I'm not 100% sure. We didn't go into the very, very detailed, accurate specifics because the game had already ended at that point. But I think the AI did show the Atari from the other side, and the variation didn't change highly in terms of points. So I'm assuming the same output. Bug Kitten says, I'd never think of connecting that stone. Not really sure what stone you're speaking of, Bug Kitten.
Oh, he's talking about this stone. Whoops. Let me turn off AI again. Talking about this stone here, I think. This one.
Oh, yeah. E5 is definitely a commitment. But I'm like, it just means that Black wanted to play D3 and thought that would be.
Because technically, like, for all we talked about, we never saw White actually caring about this. And then and black's also the one, like white also didn't come back to play d2, which was put by the recorder, and I was like, oh my god, that's so slow, but then it wasn't the game, right?
Yeah, and also there was no recorder, just for the memes in chat. Again, this was played online, but
Oh, just
yeah, it does
okay.
look
So it
like
was
that.
like an undo or what then?
I don't know. I don't think it was a undo either. I think it was just like a weird glitch, maybe perhaps.
Oh, I mean, maybe I clicked it or something, but yeah, like it's probably too slow
We
to
have
play
some
there.
European memers in the chat, like Ben Zero saying like Chen dies a lot, but now without compensation. But I'm sure every game is different, and and that is more of a call out and a testament to his opponent more than himself, because if you're dying without compensation, then it means that your opponent is
Oh, white's
playing
already
it
ahead by
like
13
properly too.
points here, according
Right. And so
to.
I really think it's the flurry of exchanges on the right side that
Oh my
kind
god.
of made the difference in points here.
Yeah.
Like to
And then even before that, like here, it's 7 points. Wow.
yeah, I really I think begins with R7. Uh but certainly is exacerbated by like E5 shenanigans.
Yeah, R7 is surprisingly losing like 3 points, which is a lot.
I it's it's an interesting decision to make, to say, hey, I mean, R5 was 100%, or R7 was 100% with S11 in mind. But even if that's true, if it's truly correct, is another consideration, right? But it's very it was definitely a choice to play R7 because uh certainly like towards the top side or even the left side. Well, maybe not the left side, but at least the top side or the left side would be where I would want to play on an empty board. But so the in-cut will be held in June is a good question. I don't know. Do you know off the top of your head when is the in cup, or does
No.
anyone in chat know? Whenever it is, you will know because we will. I'll read the article. Okay, yes, there is an article that is there, and I did read the article to be fair, but Baduk.news. We gotta go to Baduk.news to generate clicks and interactions and engagement. I'm gonna throw down the stream here. I don't actually know if links are allowed, but please check out Baduk.news. Let's see. Also, y'all, the prize money for the in cup. I don't know if you all know this, but it's like 400,000 US dollars, which is insane for Go, right?
Yeah.
Like that's like
Yeah.
chess level money. like 400K is like insane. And of course, like that's with top Asian pros and everything, but like that is not a zero number. I think it's a total prize pool of 700K, but the first winner, like the first place, will get 400K. That's like life-changing money, right? So, at any rate, we hope to see, some nice NA representation and some nice upsets. And if they win, I don't even know what'll happen. It'll be like Super Bowl, but like times a million for all Western chess, or not chess. Wow, Go fans everywhere. But yeah, this was certainly an exciting game. Certainly
Yeah.
a
So
wild game.
I'm kind of pulling it back for a second to the board, but like, yeah, I think black needed to go somewhere in this direction, just enough that like black's not going to become the one attacked, and then maybe fight Ko, right? Or like connect the Ko after that if white still didn't make the Ko. Because yeah, in the game, in the game these moves I think were okay actually, but what was it? Actually no, the last few moves apparently are not too bad for black, but black definitely needs to like.
The damage has already kind of been done on the right side, though.
Yeah, this move, how much? Yeah, this move was losing like 2 points, so this is like maybe wrong direction, trying to attack like who's attacking who, right? And on back here, I think that we got a conclusion to what we were talking about this push, right? Which is, like suppose it goes like this, or what was it? When white actually pushed, black should have ignored the play here. So that would have captured. Yeah, that would have I guess I cannot draw. Okay, I can draw. thought the AI was disabling my pen. Right, so this is dead now, and then this cut doesn't matter that much. So it's, yeah.
Which is hard for me to conceptualize. Like, this is dead now, and this doesn't care about the push. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, because it's like a lot of points, actually.
no, certainly it's points and it's safety of group, but at the same time,
Yeah, it
it's a
feels like a
Kema.
sensei push,
Like
right?
it's a Kema, right? You're just
But
like
it's a 3-point mistake, actually, for black.
sure.
So white.
I will say that like Alex has played a lot of like blue moves, which is really cool to see and heartening to see.
So yeah, we can confirm that if it goes this way that white wanted, then it is a few points gained for white in this regard. There is, of course, still a ko here, which black can make at a good moment.
Yeah.
That kind of thing is when you don't know about it and then it happens, it's like, oh my god.
True. No, it's definitely one of those shocking things, which I guess is why white plays like A8 as well. I mean, maybe not in this game state, but
So yeah, cool game, fun to discuss for sure.
yeah, there's certainly a
guys...
lot to discuss. Like, there's a lot for every level. Like I said, to interact with, to gnaw on, to make memes about if you're like Ali or Bug Kitten or Ben Zero. But reverence or irreverence aside, there is no doubt that this was definitely a very good qualifier game, at least for the material in it to learn from, to discuss about. So
yeah, Alex Chi played a very strong game.
congrats to Alex J for sure.
Mike
So he's going to China for 2 tournaments confirmed so far, right? Ing, and the other one was the Chinlan. I again apologize for the pronunciation. And then so Tuesday is the next one to figure out if for the whole show, yeah, Chinlan. And the last one is the whole show cup possibilities. So yeah. Excited to see the future of NA Go, and especially as we compete with or I guess Western Go, as we compete with Eastern professionals as well. Just kind of seeing how we stack up, of course. But
getting there.
Thank you all for tuning in. It has been an amazing time. I don't know if I have the green light to just kind of like start tapering off towards the end here, but I believe we've gone over the important points of the game and kind of satisfied our own curiosities and chats as well, hopefully. And congrats once again to Alex G. And
yeah, hopefully we didn't nuke too many comments, but Iron Guy was doing a pretty good job following.
I try. I like to interact with chat, and I'm really appreciative of chat. So thank you everyone who's watched and participated and supported in any way and looks at Baduk.news articles and follows in the streams, and it's wonderful. Thank you so much.
So yeah, it was fun. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you guys in the next Baduk Club stream.